Welcome to the Nerdtastic in 3D podcast.
It's Nerdtastic in 3D. Oh, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. Yes, it's Nerdtastic in 3D. It's Nerdtastic in 3D.
Bong.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nerdtastic in 3D, episode number 29. Very special episode, as always. This is going to be a nice long one for you guys. This week, Jack, why don't you tell everybody what special event occurred in Los Angeles?
It involved a big plate of Sean.
Yeah.
Kudu fish! There we go. I just had to hear it one more time, folks. Me, Mr. Carter, and Josh Sabrad all went to the E of the 3 this year.
Entertainment Electronic Expo, or Electronic
short.
Entertainment Expo, or some combination thereof.
Yes.
By the way, Nerdtastic in 3D is an episode of visual effects, entertainment, animation industry veterans talking to you about anything and everything that we find entertaining and or nerdy. This week, pretty much dedicated mostly to the wonderful art of video games. My name is Jason Carter.
I'm Jack Eckler.
I'm Sean Fennell.
I am Josh Spratt.
And thank you so much for joining us. Guys, why don't we kick this off?
Wait, we're missing Adam today, too.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
He tried to get back, though. In all fairness, he did attempt to get back.
Believe he was stuck in Denver, maybe? Moab, somewhere in there?
I thought he was missing his
His
connection in
connecting
Utah.
flight. Yeah.
It was. So, like we were saying, E3 this week. We're very, very excited. We went down to the show floor. Jack, you and I went on Wednesday, middle of the week. And Josh, you're dedicated, my friend. You said, I'm going to do this episode. I'm going to do it right. He actually went today.
That's right. Today for...
An hour and
I got
20
there
minutes.
at 2, and we left at 4:10.
And Sean is a department chair of a department at a big studio, so he's busy.
I just worked. I watched all the movies online. Yeah,
Which is all you need nowadays.
pretty much
So
all
let's do this. Why don't we start off with general impressions? Josh,
You hate that I don't like it anymore.
I want to hear your opinion.
My opinion is, back in the day when E3 was actually important
Back
and
in the
relevant...
day.
Say back in the day. Back in the day for you is not back in the day for everybody. So back in the day for you is, what was the first year you went?
2004?
Okay.
I believe it was 2004 was my first one.
Mm-hmm.
And excuse me, it was exciting. Swag was exciting, and that was the year when Xbox and PlayStation 2 had just come out, and it was a big deal. Oh, not just come out, but
Yeah, they'd been out.
they'd been out for a little bit. But the thing is, available web content and demos and stuff like that, it was rare. Like I said, we've had this discussion before. You've had to go out and get Xbox Live magazines or something, or PlayStation magazines or GamePro magazines to play any of these demos. Now everything is right at your fingertips. You can play it on your Xbox that very next day. It's not like you needed to be there and experience it in the kiosks. And now, 90% of the time, anything that's actually relevant or cool, if it's a very high-profile game, it is behind closed doors to VIP people only. And you can only watch a video. You can't play these games anymore. Hence, it's stupid. So, now you walk around. Things are laid out pretty much the same, except for this year there was a little bit of a different layout. But E3 now it's very... game companies hate it. Game companies hate E3 because they have to show a game that is not ready yet. They have to rush to do it. The only thing now that's more forgiving is the fact that they can just show things behind closed doors, and they can just show demos as opposed to letting the actual general public play it. And before, in my first one, you had, like I said, tons of people gave legitimately cool shit away. I mean, every game developer had the kind of gift bag sort of things, not with anything in it, but just a graphic style bag. Like Ninja Gaiden came out. They had this really awesome one. So many games, and they had all these things where people were running around. If somebody put it out, they were snatched up like that because they wanted to collect all of these things because they were cool things to collect. Booth babes were everywhere. It was just a happier time. Now they got rid of a lot of that stuff, and everything is, like I said, behind closed doors, and it's just videos that you can find literally before you even E3 has happened. Videos are already out because they have press events days before actual E3, because E3 starts on a Tuesday, goes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but the Microsoft and the EA press conference and all that stuff was all Monday. So all that stuff was even before you even got to the show floor. And then when you get to the show floor, you're just like, oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. And okay, so what's new? Except for loud, bright lights. So E3 to me, you don't need that much time. You can walk around through it and go, okay. And it's more of an experience now as it is getting information that you couldn't get before, which is what it used to be. It's like experiencing something that you couldn't. So,
hey, how come Microsoft isn't doing something big for Halo, the Halo franchise, like they did for the Call of Duty thing? The big Call of Duty event.
XP.
Yeah, the COD XP event that we went to. I think if Microsoft
They
did
did.
something like that for Halo, did they?
yeah. They did
Where
for...
was I?
It was in...
Why wasn't I invited?
It
Was
was...
it Redmond?
I can't remember where it was.
For Halo 4?
Not for Halo 4, but for Halo. It was for the 25th anniversary. Or, well, no, I'm sorry, not 25th. What's the one when it came out? The
10th anniversary?
10th anniversary when the updated version of the first Halo?
Halo Anniversary is what it was called.
Whatever. Anyways, with that, they did a whole kind of thing, kind of like COD XP did, where you were able to go out and...
Didn't they do that at PAX? Didn't they hold it at PAX? It was at PAX in Seattle.
Yeah,
they had a big Halo thing because that's close to home, so they were able to do it.
That's where they brought in the Weta Workshop Warthog that Weta created for the Neil Blomkamp, old, now retired Halo movie.
So 2003 or 2004 is when Josh went. Sean, you didn't go. Last year was your first time.
Last year was my first and maybe last time at E3. Probably for the same reasons that Josh mentioned.
And that's going 1 year. I've been many, many years.
Jack, thoughts?
I had a good time this year. I've been going since 2004 too. Actually, the first year I went, I was part of that team Josh talked about of people who were working on a game and had to show a game before it was ready to be shown. So that was frustrating, but being new to that industry at the time, it was like Josh said, it's and this is with anything, it's you're excited to be part of that, and that's super exciting. And as years went on, it's just different things. Last year was sort of dumbed down a bit, I thought. This year I thought it was a little bit of different experience. I went with Jason, and I don't know. I think we had a great time. I think with me too is there's a lot of I get to see a lot of the friends that I worked with in games back then. That's usually the only time I get to run into them anymore. So a large majority of the time yesterday, I'd say at least an hour and a half worth. I was spent just talking to some of these people that I don't see very often, get to catch up with.
I completely agree with you on that.
And then the other time, Josh is right. There is a lot of stuff nowadays behind closed door. I mean, honestly, there were games you could play. The thing that gets me though, in general, and this is with anything, this is even theme parks. I hate lines. I'm just not. Maybe I'm just that douchebag who thinks he's too good. I just don't want to wait anymore. So we didn't really wait for anything, and that includes something I'm obviously excited about, which is Call of Duty series and Black Ops 2. But I walked up to talk to them, and they were only showing 2 maps being played by somebody else. So you could wait an hour to go watch it played by somebody else, and I just figured, like Josh said, it's better I can just sit at home and watch and get the same experience. But the thing with me is the tactile stuff, the stuff I can see and actually touch and stuff means something to me. So like I bought a Wii. I'm not the biggest proponent of the Wii. It's just an expensive Monopoly board at my house. It's been played, I think, twice. And so the Wii U really had just super no appeal to me. So I was not willing to want to spend any money on Nintendo again, because I've just found I've outgrown that until my daughters are old enough to want to play it. But I thought that was cool. It was cool to have in my hands and sort of check it out. It was cool to see potentially what that's going to do. But as far as the overall, like I said, I had a great time. I was hanging out with a friend. It's just cool, kind of get away to sit and play some stuff we don't normally play. or I guess with me, I normally wouldn't play. You guys know me, dude. My limited time when I get home to play games, I usually just focus on the games I really have fun with friends, which right now tends to be Call of Duty. So this to me is, I know I'm not going there to play Call of Duty.
Right.
But yet I took a vacation day, so what the fuck? I may as well just have fun playing games I don't normally play. And, Jason, you go into that. We played definitely a couple games I wouldn't normally play.
But the one thing that I can say is, it's not like I didn't have a good time, because I had fun because my friend was down. And I got to, talk to him and hang out with him. And like you said, meet up with friends that, I haven't seen in a while at different game studios. It's just like, yo, what have you been doing? And stuff like that. So I enjoy it for that. But when you talk about the expo itself and what it is, to me, it's meh. Like, I'll still keep going just because of the fact that I'll only go for a little bit, because I'm not going there to see any games. I'm going there because my friend is in town that I don't get to see very often, and meeting up with other friends that I don't get to see very often. So I have good times, but it's just...
like I said,
as an expo, I'm just kind of like... Bleh.
I'll end it in the fact that for me in particular, it's just a chance for me to do stuff I don't normally do.
Sure.
There's
100%.
a good chance most of the games I'm playing there, I'm not going to buy. I'm not going to play again. I'm not going to do anything. But I walk away going, that was fun. Right? Josh, what was it, last year or the year before, getting on like Tony Hawk Skate and making an ass of myself up there?
Oh, yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah. See, that's something, I didn't buy it, but fuck, it was fun to be up there playing with it.
But when I first started, I went all 3 days from opening to close. Then the next year
that's
I went,
the thing. You don't
I
need
went
to
from
do
2
that.
days, and I went opening to close. Then after the next one, I was just like, I went for a full day, and then everything just started to become repetitive, and everything was in the same area, and then technology was catching up, like I said, with the internet and having things available to you just like that, where I'm just like, okay, I only need to go now for a couple of hours and pick out things and see that I want to play. And then, like with the Lions, I don't want to wait in line to play this thing now. And so it's just kind of like, I just walk around for the experience. And then the experience is just kind of like, meh, and I enjoy my friends more. Jason, how is your take?
So I've been going, let's see, so I believe E3 let's see if I get this right, 2006, 7, and 8, I believe, went on hiatus.
Yes, it was only in...
It's like 3 years where it went on hiatus, right?
Yeah,
something like that. And, it had gotten so big, and all of the publishers had basically said, we don't want to spend this much money on this trade show. We want to focus on other trade shows. And then, the industry kind of revolted, and it kind of came back. So the year that it came back, I believe, was 2009, was my first year going. So I never went before the hiatus. I will say this being my fourth year, this was the most fun I've had at an E3. I go for very different reasons. We've talked on this show a lot about how when you go and watch a movie, sometimes, and I would argue in our industry, given what we do, it's more rare, you're able to shut yourself off, and you're able to be a kid in that movie, and you're able to be excited about the stupid explosions, and you're able to turn off, oh, I know that they used Maya on that, and you're able to turn off all industry knowledge and become a kid again.
That's why I can't wait for Prometheus.
And
I feel that way about that movie.
Yeah. And so that's what, for me, that's what E3 is. E3 is a chance for me to be walking around these companies in an industry that I really find very, very interesting, and able to turn off everything other than my own excitement, and to purposefully, I emphasize that, purposefully get wrapped up in the hype. I go there because it's a giant press machine, and I find the energy level associated with that incredibly exciting. Whether that's from the NOS energy drinks that Jack and I pounded all day long, to
I got offered those.
To a new
and a 5-hour energy.
A new Razer laptop that we're going to talk about, and every single thing in between. The giant Microsoft, PlayStation, Nintendo booths. Everybody there is there to spend millions of dollars on these huge setups and just hype their company. And I go there to get wrapped up in that whirlwind, intentionally so. And I want to be a kid, and I want to check my adultness out the door. And that this is for lack of a better word, this is a theme park event for me once a year. Now, I will say, I've definitely gone with friends in the past that were more industry veterans as far as they actually worked for one of the companies that was displaying a big booth, and it lots of fun with those guys. But having a fellow Nerdtastic and 3D member, best friend, cruise along with, we had an absolute blast. Definitely had a lot of fun doing stupid stuff. Taking pictures that you may not normally take because you're slightly more embarrassed, but it's good fun. And I haven't ever attended Comic-Con. I'm one of the few nerds that out in the world I think that hasn't at this point.
Yeah, me too.
But I do. There's definitely a decent amount of people dressing up. What is it called? Cosplay and booth babes.
There were booth babes. Maybe not today when you went. There were yesterday quite a bit.
There are. It's just
more so than any other year I've been. That's for sure.
Like I said, back in the day, it was ridiculous. Ridiculous.
And so maybe that's part of the difference between you and I, Josh, is I before the hiatus, I have heard the same thing, that it was basically just this massive, extravagant thing. And it is very big now, but maybe not to the same degree that it was. And I don't have that reference line, that baseline to compare it to.
And I wouldn't even say big. And I totally understand your checking, just being a kid and stuff like that. My problem with that, and I can do the exact same thing, and I'm totally on board with you. They don't show anything new. They don't show anything that you don't already see, and the things that you see or that you're excited about, you can't play. You can't enjoy these things. Like you get you get out of the 16 booths, you get the cool one that you get to play the Tony Hawk.
It's
thing.
like being
you get the cool one that you get to play the Kinect thing and stuff like that, and you're just like, cool, that was a lot of fun. And now all these 18 other booths and companies that I'd like to go see, it's just kind of like, what are you gonna give me? And I would love to sit there and just that was exciting about going to E3 the first couple of years, because when you went there, it was stuff you didn't see, and you can play it and you can enjoy it. And so it was literally like opening a present. So Christmas, going like, oh, this is here. Oh, I gotta play that.
It's interesting because I focus on it slightly different from I don't go there to play. I don't necessarily go there to play games.
Yeah, bring that up, because that was I found that interesting. When we went.
I think the game industry is a very interesting case study. I think this thing, it's one of the younger industries of our time, and it's one of the most wealthy. It brings in the most amount of revenue per year, especially considering how young it is. And so I find the entire industry an incredible case study. So I actually go because I find, Josh, you're talking about there's nothing new. Jack and I probably met 10 people from 10 different companies that neither of us had ever heard of before.
I think that was the thing that was
completely
different.
New. Like, we met this massive Japanese publisher with a gigantic booth that's coming on to basically take out Zynga here in the United States, called Gree. And it's this really interesting thing. Now,
we got much more interactive than I've ever got. I guess that's one of the biggest things, Jason, to bring up. Me and you got very interactive with even small booths. We just started talking, and all of a sudden we found ourselves. That's why it went long, like we were there as long as we were, because those conversations usually turned into 30 minutes of just going places I didn't even think they would go when we first started talking to them.
You end up, we'll get to this, but you end up talking to, people that may work on a video game of a movie you might potentially be working on, and you end up having an hour-long conversation about, their interactions with the company you work for. I just find the industry part of it so fascinating. And yes, Josh, while I agree, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 games, I had heard about and already had links on our, podcast topics document before I had even gone to the show floor, before the show floor had even opened. You basically get everything there is to know off of the press briefings and off of online. So I don't necessarily, E3 isn't about what's the new hot game I'm going to hear about on the show floor. It's more about who am I going to see, who am I going to run into, who am I going to meet, what spectacle have people put out there. I love the fact that Microsoft put out a warthog, and Jack, and I know you did too, Josh, got our picture in front of it. And I have to say, I love... They had this setup where it was just giant warthog, and Jack and I looked at each other and we're like, yeah, that has to happen. So we went up and we took pictures with the warthog, and then they do the thing just like at Disneyland. Certain places you can have it emailed to yourself or whatever. So you can type an email address. So we go up to the computer and we're like, yeah, this needs to be emailed to Josh.
And then as soon as I got that, I just texted Jason as his assholes. I was just like, you sons of bitches.
So I think there's some different perspective there. I definitely get much more intrigued by the industry part of it, by the spectacle, by like some of the more business part of what's happening at that, and you see certain people that you may recognize in the industry talking and wonder what that might be about, and you overhear certain conversations here and there, and you laugh at nerds that are gawking over booth babes. I find the whole experience so entertaining. Anyways, that's kind of my take on the general things about it.
It's not. I'm back to what you said. To me, it's not a 3-day thing. I think maybe if I was there for business or whatever, I think there's still good connections for that kind of thing. But I think in general, for me anymore, I think it's just a nice day. I think it's a nice, and with Jason, it's a nice day break to do, and it's whatever. It's like a once a year kind of thing for me, and it's like Comic-Con for me. It's like hey, go down there. Even if I can rock it for one day, I'm happy I rocked it for one day and got to experience it.
So let's dive into a couple of the specifics here. I think one thing that was kind of interesting was this is the first year since I had been where the big three, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, were all in the same hall. Usually, from what I understand, Microsoft intentionally tries and distances themselves from Sony and Nintendo, and that seemed to not be the case this year, which I found a little interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And for those that haven't been to the LA Convention Center, it's pretty big. It's kind of spaced out, very weird. It's not just like a very long kind of hallway sort of thing like, say, San Diego is.
If you've been to Comic-Con, it's not like that.
It's like a whole giant-ass massive hall, and then almost does this kind of weird L or kind of U-shapey sort of thing, and then goes around, and you're in another hall. But it's used in Hollywood a lot of times. If you see an airport, it's most likely the convention center. If you see... if you remember Starship Troopers, when they're all flying out of, leaving to go to their recruit things or whatever and stuff like that, it's all in the convention center.
Basically, two giant open halls connected by a long kind of terminal-y hallway kind of a thing.
I thought it was interesting because for me in particular, it showed that as powerful as the consoles are, and it's some of the content they put out specifically for theirs, the main publishers were able to hold their own and basically hold their own space in their own hall this year. And I think that in general I was sort of fascinated with it. That and the publishers actually spent money on their booths. Like they had pretty massive-ass booths compared to last year.
We talked,
for sure.
Yeah, we talked to a good friend of ours from the Disney booth who mentioned that there were some numbers being thrown around the $3 million mark for that booth setup, which, I mean, that's some big money to spend on a 3-day setup.
And they were giving away, specifically at the Disney booth, they were showing off Epic Mickey 2, and they were actually giving out, Mickey ears you can get at the Disney World, Disneyland parks. They were giving away Oswald Mickey ears, so like the long ears from the old school pre-Mickey Mouse era, Oswald, and with your name embroidered on them as well.
Very cool.
I'm sure that cost them a little bit.
Yep. And then, Josh, you mentioned that there's not cool swag this year. Jack got a free copy of Disney's biggest mobile game. They were handing out free copies of it.
Did you get a copy of Where's My Wallet?
I did.
They had a pretty big booth.
Oh yeah,
was
I
huge.
was very surprised.
Do you know what else we got for free? You want to tell them what else we got for free? The other piece of swag we got, besides for the unlimited Nas drinks that we were putting down, miniature bottles of Axe body
shampoo.
I got dog tags.
Good for you.
Got those booth babes were all over you.
Yeah. I went in the bathroom and started washing, and they came out of the woodwork. Honestly, that's the one thing that's lost on me now completely.
Axe body wash.
I want no part of swag anymore, unless you're giving me the game, which I got yesterday, which I can't find the card I got.
Uh-oh.
I don't really need. Well, I take that back. One thing, COD XP, that skull shirt I got with all the icons. I went way out of my way to get that shirt. That was cool as shit, and it was cool and loved it, and it didn't have a lot of doesn't really say what it is, so I liked it. It wasn't just like Activision across the front and like on the back, buy my shit.
No, Christine told me when I was driving there, she's like, so if people hand you something, turn it away You're 30 years old. If it's just going to go under the coffee table when you get home, don't bring it home. I'm
That's
like,
exactly-
okay, no problem. I got you.
Where those dog tags go?
Yeah.
Slam them down on the coffee table. Show them to the camera,
these were
Josh.
kind of
Show these
forced
dog
upon
tags.
me. This was forced upon me.
Forced on him, he says. Forced on him.
That's awesome.
There's an attractive woman that was like, "Here, no, take this, and I was just like,
That's what happened with the Axe.
You meant the dog tag.
"Oh, okay, yes, sorry." So I got to put my penis back in my shorts. Sorry,
So speaking of
Technical penis.
technical penis.
Speaking of the big three, they're at least certainly within the last 2 years. There's been each one of them has had a interesting focus, right? So Microsoft obviously pushing the Kinect, huge. Nintendo obviously pushing either the 3DS or the Wii U as of recent,
Like a drug.
and then so true. And then Sony has been pushing PlayStation Move. And they've also been a very, very big advocate of stereoscopic 3D gaming. So their booth has always been a go-to place to be able to play some games in 3D. Now, something I found particularly disturbing and sad, given what I do for a living, is that with the exception of the 3DS, I did not see one single stereoscopic gaming setup apart from a boutique booth in the very far corner. But no games. No games are being showed off as, yeah, look at this, looks awesome in 3D. Sony didn't have a single offering in 3D. I was very, very surprised by that. Sony's been a big, I mean, for the last, like I said, 3 years, 4 years, they've been pushing this kind of a thing. Here are all the games that we got coming out in 3D. Check out how awesome the PS3 is. And
Well,
this
do
year,
you
nothing.
feel like there's a draw there to make more money? Because the way that stereo is organized in the film industry is you pay an extra $4 or $5 to see the
Exactly.
film in stereo. That's probably not going to work as a video game model.
Very true. Very true. No, I think it's something that's, if it's going to work, it's going to be a, hey, look at this extra enhancement, kind of like a Blu-ray kind of a thing, like Blu-ray is that much better than DVD, well, stereo is that much better than, it's an enhancement upon the other version of the game. And I agree, it looks like the industry is, there's been some articles from the whatever head of Sony Entertainment that said, no, that's not the case, we're still very dedicated to 3D, but whatever, it wasn't a priority for them to show it off. Interesting, a little sad. Like I said, I've been hoping the game industry is really going to jump on board it, but if not, that's fine too.
But yeah, I mean, movie-wise, like how Sean was saying, I mean, there was the article like 2 weeks ago that G.I. Joe that was supposed to come out
Oh, yes.
in like 3 weeks now is coming out an entire year later because they're converting their movie to 3D because of just the money. Just because you can do a premium. And
I believe they used Titanic
They used
3D as their
Titanic.
example.
God, that's the most stupidest. Well, James Cameron did Titanic. Look how much money he made. Yeah, it's already a successful movie.
Yeah.
So it's,
That movie was
the
already-
most successful.
That movie was already at like $2 billion or whatever it was.
yeah, but now
Pre-conversion?
Yeah, G.I. Joe's
Something like
totally
that.
going to benefit from that.
It's got The Rock in it.
The other thing too that I found a little interesting, again, Josh, it's kind of I tend to find a lot of the woodwork stuff that aren't at a lot of the major booths, and something I always try and make a big step towards is I think it's called Art of the Pixel or something of that, and it's basically an art show of all of the concept art, and then next to that is usually the indie game development stuff.
That's always been cool every year. That's a cool little thing.
Yeah, so I disagree this year.
This year, not so much this year.
And I actually say, it's nothing. The artists do brilliant work. Let's start with the art thing first. Is with the exception of I think maybe 2 or 3 concept artwork, viz dev artwork, it was a little bit lacking for me this year. Obviously, some of the scapes, the landscape stuff for Halo and the Forerunner architecture.
A lot of Halo stuff.
Oh, it was amazing. There's some really, really gorgeous stuff. And then there's an interesting one from the game Journey, the XBLA game Journey. But it was a little bit lacking for me. And then right next to it, of course, is Indiecade. And Indiecade, Jack and I walked through there, and I tried to look at every single screen, and there's just
Crap.
There's just no, stuff
I
that...
don't know how else to put it,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
The only thing that was even semi-enticing wasn't even really a game. It was a ball on the floor that you have an iPhone app, and as you move your finger around, the ball literally rolls around on the ground.
Well, all right.
Try not to
That
fart
was-
too.
I don't know.
was that
I don't know if
there?
it's because the move. I was thinking about this after the fact. I was wondering if it's the move now because it's so easy on mobile devices, and the market's there, and there's money to be made, that developers are like, well, here's the deal. I could spend years developing for potential chance to go to Xbox Live, or
It's a numbers game, man.
I just bust something out for the iPad and call it a day.
20 titles, and maybe one will hit a couple $100,000.
And they don't need to go to a publisher,
Right.
other than, hey, Apple, can I put this game out here?
Yeah.
You know,
And with indie games,
it's
they
sad.
have a small budget. They have a small team, and they're trying to get big. And it's expensive to have a booth at E3,
Well, that's what the Indie-Cade's all about.
and that's why. But that's also why they have the whole indie, the indie expo thing. That like when Fez premiered and stuff like that. From that,
Talking about PAX?
Are you talking about GDC?
was it at GDC or I thought it was at PAX actually. Was it at PAX?
PAX, was showed off. Fez has been showed off everywhere, but PAX is one of the big show-offs. That's the one that was in the indie game, the movie. Yeah. But GDC, I actually think, is the one where they have like indie awards for indie developers.
And then that's more of like
bigger thing.
That's more where you're going to find
game
that.
devs. Though,
but when you're sitting there trying to spend money in booths and stuff like that, out of all the things that happen, I doubt even an eighth.
Now, see here, I'll argue though that PAX would be, if I was an indie developer, I would argue that PAX is where you'd want to show your game.
Totally.
Because if you're indie, you don't have a publisher, you don't care to have a publisher, PAX is all about the user experience and the person to play. You want to go play games, and we argue about E3 not being able to play games. PAX is specifically designed and was designed as a conference for those people to go play games, because E3 is an industry event, right? So you can't get a pass, and there's an age requirement that to go to E3, where PAX said, well, fuck all that. If you just spend a lot of money on a ticket, we'll have playable demos, and everybody can
anyone in the public can go. So the first thing, I don't know why I do this, but the first thing I always do when I go is I hit the South Hall, and South Hall, first thing right in the door is the EA booth. So Jack, why don't you tell us a little bit about the first thing that we did?
Yeah, so we walked in, and
I
I hadn't seen any Medal of Honor stuff, so I was looking at that, and they had a playable demo.
It looked good.
You could sit and physically play if you wanted to, but there was a line. So we said, we're looking around. I'm like, oh look, dude, there's an open kiosk with Battlefield 3. I was like, and I was a big Battlefield 2 guy, but I, for whatever reason, haven't bought 3. So I said, hey, just play that again. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and record you. Why don't you give it a go, buddy? Now, this is on the PS3. I've never watched somebody who's not mentally retarded play a game like I watched Jason play this game. He managed to get himself in a corner where he just knifed consistently, hoping somebody would run by. I lost it. I was cracking up so much.
Let me put it this way. If Jack wasn't there, I would have been incredibly embarrassed. Incredibly embarrassed.
Oh, I was losing it.
I got to the point where I looked down a hallway, and I think if you could do this, I fumbled my gun and dropped it or something, and it was the equivalent of basically fumbling a football and trying to pick it up and keep running. It was just, I switched to my knife at one point, and then I jumped on top of another guy at another point, and very bad.
But he didn't know how to kill him.
Oh, very bad.
I just picked up the controller just to make sure it worked.
I got the zoom and shoot button completely backwards.
That's just That's just the PlayStation.
It was awkward. No, when I got into it,
weird.
I chucked a grenade right at the wall once I started. I was like, well, that didn't work. And I backed off.
I did not zoom in. I just
Exactly.
chucked my grenade.
I killed somebody, though. I played really, really fast after Jason to make sure the controls all worked and it was legit.
It's like, nope, you're just genuinely an idiot.
I'll tell you what, it's a beautiful game, though.
Oh, totally.
Oh, my God.
It was a fantastic
It's a gorgeous game. Like the map, that it was in this warehouse with some connectors and stuff. And
it comes from good stock.
It does. I'm sure its parents are proud.
They had a ton of Far Cry 3.
I saw that as well. Yeah, we didn't play. I mean, it was everywhere, though.
It was. So we can dive into that for a second. I put Far Cry down on our topic list for a very particular reason. I loved Far Cry, the first game. Loved it. So much fun. So the environments were so rich and vibrant.
It was a big tech leap for a game, too.
Yeah, it was huge. Absolutely loved it. So much so that I bought Far Cry 2.
Yeah, how'd that work
game
out?
was crap. Crappy game. So bad. I'm sorry, it was so bad. To the point where I won't play 3.
Can't come back.
It's
huh?
ruined the franchise for me. It really has. And 3 is even back into that like more jungle, tropical environment, which is much more along the lines of the first one.
It wasn't 2 like out in the desert or something.
Africa.
I just remember watching videos of people driving Jeeps for hours.
Yeah, it was honestly.
It seemed not fun to me.
Best game ever.
I thought it was like a rally race or something.
Honestly, I'm definitely partially a completionist when it comes to games. Like, I will try and play a game
Regardless.
to beat the achievements or whatever. I couldn't. The games I can't do, I can't finish. I can't bring myself to finish were Far Cry 2. And I'm sorry, Sean, Assassin's Creed. I just can't
Dude,
do
I
it.
did not get all
cannot
of the
do it.
feathers in that stupid game.
I can't
No,
do
sir.
it. Oh gosh.
I got a bunch of games at home I've never finished. Well, there's one started with H that you boys all love. I don't think I've ever finished one of those games.
Hey, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's funny.
so
God, I can't wait to put up videos. You know, a side note, just so the listeners can know, I'm either going to put one big compilation together or I'm going to do a couple parts and include Josh's footage. But we actually did record some funny-ass shit at the event. Or at least I think so. Maybe it's boring as hell.
no, particularly towards the end, which
But,
we'll get to later.
Nerdtastic brought footage that started with my DLSR that'll look nice and then jumped to my iPhone after the camera died because I just needed to keep recording. But
So let's talk about let's call it the 300-pound gorilla in the room, or elephant, if you will, which is that
Stop calling me names.
when you walk into either one of the halls, you cannot look anywhere without seeing some type of first-person shooter set in a modern times. Whether that's Medal of Honor, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, the list goes on and on.
there was another
Splinter
game that
Cell.
was cool.
Splinter Cell's not first
That was
person.
on the what game was that? There was another one that the you could play it, but it took place like in a downed airplane out in the desert.
There was
It
like
looked good.
Deviants or something like that.
But we joked about it. I go, oh, look, another game with a downed plane in the middle of the map. Hey, that's a pretty creative theme.
You know me. I give Activision, Treyarch, Infinity Ward a ton of credit for what they've done and continue to do. I am just so tired. I'm exhausted of the artwork, the visuals of fighting in Afghanistan and Iran. I just am.
The shit's real, man.
No, but so I think
Shit's real.
whether
We need GoldenEye back.
whether the gameplay is
Damn good
fun or not, the art style, the setting is just so. I feel like we've beaten a dead horse to death here, which is why I find very, very interesting. There are some certain things that pop up in contrast to that. Halo, of course, being the obvious one. It's so contrasty. I mean, it's the exact opposite as far as theme is concerned, and that's why one of the
Same as
reasons.
Gears of War.
Yeah, actually, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. Gears of War is another one, and those are so attractive to me from a thematic standpoint and a setting standpoint, only because they stand out as different. Whether it's good or not, it looks different. And that, to me, is like, oh, they stand out amongst this sea of beige first-person shooters.
But, you know...
Digital tan.
Exactly.
We've talked to you about this, though. Me and Josh's feeling on this is... It's,
I like that.
It's obviously for Activision and its fan base, or Activision. One, it's a very lucrative business for them.
Absolutely.
Which will always lead you to one conclusion. If it ain't fucking broke, don't fix it. And now, I find their model interesting because they use two different studios for a franchise, and I think to me that brings like life, some kind of life. I think every year that a new one comes out, the next studio tries at least one up portions of it. I think this last year, for what Modern Warfare 3 lacked in some of the multiplayer experience, they did it. I think they did an amazing job for the Call of Duty community by offering Elite and that new experience and the potential of what Elite really could be. Same with the content, this is all leading to where Halo 4 is obviously going, where they're bringing episodes, and we'll get into this later in the show, but they basically said, hey, if you're a part of Elite, we're going to give you once a month, whenever, every couple weeks, new maps, new Spec Ops maps, new multiplayer maps, new game maps made for specific game modes. We're going to give you new game modes. I think they're doing that right without having to probably go too far into their overhead to reinvent the wheel every time. I think is the big thing. I mean, because obviously all of us, you have to look at it from a business standpoint too, and that works. And their community loves that it works.
It's not just works. That's an understatement.
Well, yeah.
It's
I'm being modest about it because I know how you feel about it, and I respect that.
I
But
think it's I agree with you on the principle from a business standpoint. Don't mess with a good thing. I think my annoyance is not. I get it. Black Ops Call of Duty. Yeah, you got your thing going on. Run with it, right? My problem is, okay, now then Medal of Honor, EA goes, let's do a Medal of Honor. Let's do a Battlefield. All the same thing. The same.
Well, those companies want the
theme.
money.
Right. They're chasing this, and I am tired of it. I'm saying, fine, give the crown to somebody and everybody else stop. Move on. I'm just so tired of the...
That's why my two favorite games... Well, besides Halo. But besides Halo, my two favorite games that I was excited for that came out of E3 announcements and stuff like that were two non-first-person shooter games.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What were they?
Last of Us was one, which is not anything new, but we saw like a bunch of new gameplay footage, which is done by Naughty Dog and Sony. And the other one was it Beyond or something? That Ellen Page game? What was it? Anybody remember? People who made Hard Rain. Company. Oh, that game looks so fucking cool.
Chocolate Rain? Sean, is there anything like, I mean, not to change topics, Jason, at all, but I mean, was there anything you were kind of excited about this? It doesn't have to be about the show, but like was shown around this time and what you've seen videos of that you're a bit excited about?
Yeah, I think the only two things that stood out to me were the zombie Wii U game looked really fun. Just the gameplay demo kind of, this is how the game will work animated thing, I thought was really cool. And Halo 4 has gotten me excited about the Halo franchise again. Like after Halo 3, I completely checked out of the Halo universe.
Oh, dude, after Halo 2 took it downhill, I mean, the storytelling in Halo 2, I hear you. It's Halo 1 was awesome, and then it's like, oh.
But Halo 4 looks like it's bringing some fresh, cool-looking games and
New
enemies
studio.
and technology, and now they're trying to
studios,
blur the line between individual gameplay, campaign, co-op, multiplayer. It looks really fun. It looks fun again.
Yeah, I want to hit on the Zombie U thing. So Ubisoft is putting out this game called Zombie U, which we will post.
Ubisoft is bringing it this year.
They really are.
They really had a
hitting
big presence at the show for sure.
So I think we have not been shy on this show to share our skepticism about the Wii U.
No,
I think
we haven't. We've been so skeptical. We've never even mentioned it on the show.
I think. Well, we have. I mean, barely, because we talked about it last. We talked about it. Well, not last year, but when we went to the show last year, we talked.
We've mentioned it. I think it's something. You look at the Wii, and I think we all feel.
I think that's our experience with the Wii.
We feel slightly burned, like we feel like, oh man, what a cool thing, and then you play it for 10 minutes.
My kids play the shit out of it, but
no, that's a demographic, right?
That's the intended demographic.
So is my after this year. Here's my kind of take on the Wii U. I think we've all been burned by the Wii, and I think last year when Nintendo came out with the Wii U, the stuff that they showed was nothing to get excited about.
Yeah, absolutely not.
There were no promo pieces.
The Ghost Recon thing was kind of cool. That's all I really remember.
Ghost Recon?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, but the only people that are going to play
the
Ghost
Gunsmith?
Recon,
yeah, the Gunsmith
that was
option
for
within the
Kinect,
Wii,
wasn't it?
No, it was. They had it for Wii.
Yeah, kind of augmented reality.
Josh was there. Yeah,
the only people that are going to play Ghost Recon on the Wii are the people that only
have the other
a Wii.
system. Yeah, exactly.
They only have a Wii, and they're like, well, I guess I'll buy it.
But so I think this really goes to show the power of having solid promo pieces to show off at an event like this, because you have a lot of people writing a lot of internet blogs and a lot of coverage on certain things. If you have a powerful piece that's enticing and interesting to people, you're going to get crowds of people flocking there. And the Zombie U is a perfect example. I think the entire industry had kind of been like raised eyebrow to the Wii U. We're not the only ones. And then along comes Ubisoft and shows off the real potential of what that thing could potentially do. And if you were with Jack and I, you go around any of the Nintendo booths, and there's a lines maybe like 1-2 people deep. Zombie U, all the stations of that were easily like 15,
Yeah, it
20
was-
people at each kiosk. Like they were just significantly much more interested in that.
We just watched.
I have a worry about the Wii U in general, just the concept of it, and my worry is that Nintendo has built themselves into a proprietary corner, unfortunately, where there is this console controller thing that has the game built into it, essentially. And Jack's mentioned stuff that sounds really cool. You can be playing a game and you're playing it using this thing as the controller, and it sort of acts as a heads-up display in a way. But you're actually playing the game on your TV. And if your family member comes and says, I want to watch TV, you're like, all right, cool, boop, and the game is suddenly on this little thing. That's really cool. And I think the problem with that is, like Microsoft and other people have showed, everyone's kind of going towards more generic tablet technology now, and not this very proprietary carry around only one usable type of thing controller, which kind of worries me a little bit.
I think that's very, very well said. I don't know. I think the real power for me is in, this goes to say the power of public relations, PR and marketing. I think last year you did nothing, Nintendo, to show any real excitement, and this year you had another company show something super exciting to get the general public excited about your product. So I really kind of, stick my nose up to the marketing team at Nintendo, unfortunately, for this one, to really kind of say, look, you didn't do anything to sell me on it, but clearly there's some potential there, because there's some, like you said, Sean, that's a really interesting and cool demo.
And I think their demographics still alive, Sean. I thought they had a pretty cool booth. It felt like fucking Wonka Land, and it was kind of crazy compared to the year before. And the actual Mario World, I'll call it, base games, I thought going to be great for kids. There was a really cool physics game that me and Jason looked at that was based around Donkey Kong. And there's some other stuff that I quickly glanced at that it's funny. I think to your sons because they play the hell out of your Wii at your house.
They would break the shit out of that thing, though.
Drop it like I told Jason when we were there, and even when I
day.
asked the guys, that the thing that got me is, and I could see this being why if it ever got purchased in our house, it'd be the most expensive TV remote I had at the house. Because it has an option on there to do that. And then the guy didn't know enough facts or could tell us about who they would partner with to use it as that. But there was a TV option built on it right now. And I was like, whoa, what does that do? And I was like, Dan Camp, if you're going to listen to this, I wanted to one-up you and your fancy damn TV remotes and just get this thing and be like, woohoo! I could surf the net with like a $400 remote with the LCD. TVU!
To kind of riff off that for a second, Jack, I think you get a lot of people, every time you go up to you play a game, there's usually a representative of the company there that's teaching you about it, there for questions, whatever, tells you about the game if you're interested.
Leave me alone, guy.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But I have to say,
Starving.
well, it's funny because I usually am the opposite. I usually try and chat with them a little bit and get some insights into the game and whatever they may know about the company, whatever it is. And I have to say, the guy that we ended up hanging out with for a little while at the Nintendo kiosk that we were at was definitely the coolest game instructor, I believe that title is called. The coolest one at the whole thing. Just a super cool guy, very he was cool with us filming the whole thing and telling us all about the product, and I think he could sense a little bit of our skepticism, but was still just totally awesome with telling us.
Was he like Jason Segel and I Love You Man? Like that cool?
Not quite.
Not that cool.
Right.
I think he was
Totes.
frustrated. Totes,
Totes goat.
I think he only got a little frustrated when, the thing with having me and Jason come up to start asking you questions is they're not just going to be about like, is this a single player or multiplayer? Like we were, what's the specs on that thing? Like, I mean, it was like full blown interview, and obviously the poor guy, he didn't know all the crap we were asking.
I think he said. I think they have the company answer when you call the operator is like, oh, please consult Nintendo.com/.
He said that to us at one point. He goes, you can go to Nintendo.com. we're like, it's all good, dude. We know.
He was a cool guy.
He was super nice about it.
So one thing, this is the first time I had picked up the Wii U pad or whatever they're calling it, and I have to say one thing that I found incredibly shocking was it was big. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was thick.
It's a steering wheel.
I'm
man.
telling you, dude,
it was thick.
It's a Game Gear, a slightly thinner for people old enough to have ever owned a Game Gear, and I have one. Maybe I'll bring it on the show to show off. I mean, it's thick,
but
not as thick as that. But
Nintendo has done this throughout like their history of their company. They come out with the DS and the Game Boy and all that stuff, and people buy the shit out of them. Don't get me wrong.
Fanboys do.
But there's always just this fucking thing you gotta bring with you, and it's kind of bigger and bulkier.
Well, no, here's the thing. While I will say it was incredibly thick, it was incredibly
That's what
lightweight.
Up top, dude.
Yes, sir. Girl.
It was incredibly lightweight. Very, very. I mean, almost to the point where it
I
felt
was
like
surprised actually when you
Yeah.
handed it over to me to check that out. I was actually surprised with that, and you know the
Space-age
functionality of
plastics.
sitting on it. But once again, when I had it in my hands, I was telling Jason, I'm like, to me, it's going to be okay. I could turn the TV remote, and there's potential they're going to do it. I think we asked the guy. He said, yeah, there's potential for YouTube, Hulu Plus, that kind of thing to watch on too. So it's kind of like a tablet, I guess. Stuff you could do with your iPad now.
That you can only play.
So you can have another tablet that
Yeah.
only does one thing for one company.
But that's the thing. You have this tablet, and you have this game, and you have one tablet to play the game, but it's a family game system meant to be played with a bunch of people.
So it supports 2 Wii U
Two.
pads
And that's
and 4 Wiimotes. So you can have up to 6 players per console.
Do we want to talk about what the new Wii
Kinda
remote
wonder,
looks
like-
like?
If you're
You
playing on
mean the Wii Pro controller?
this makes me think
The
you're
Wii
playing on the
Xbox
TV.
controller?
You're gonna forget that there's shit happening down here.
That's exact. No, dude.
Right?
We watched. You know, if you guys know. So we saw the demo of the zombie thing, and then we watched it again here today before the show started. The whole time I'm watching that, and everything's happening, I would get lost. Why the fuck would I want to keep looking down at this pad when I want to watch what's on? No shit.
Yeah.
That was my mind went right there. I go, okay, I die. Like you said on there's a part with the touchpad where you're supposed to go back down to your Wii remote, touching these 8 keys, and why zombies are coming at you. You can look back up on the screen to see them coming at you,
Yeah.
and then you go back down to type a number. I'm like, fuck that. Just put the
Exactly.
number in.
It's like it's just as annoying as if you were sitting there playing a game, and your wife or your girlfriend comes in and asks you a question. What do you think of this? It's just like you look over and you glance over and you're just like, I don't care. I don't want to look over there. I want to look at the screen.
It's a good analogy.
Here's a calculator. Can you do math for me?
Exactly. Sure.
Now, you know what it made me think of, though? A game like, let's say, Minecraft. And I've seen the option screen that when I was at Jason's house, where you're doing the crafting in the game. I think it'd be cool if you were playing a game that's kind of slow
Yeah, when
paced
you're
like
not-
that.
yeah.
You could look down, and if you had your crafting menu up the whole time,
Or your
and be able
porn.
to, well, if you just yes, I could do that with my phone.
Everything
though.
could be related back to porn. By the way.
But
absolutely.
Jason, does that make sense? Like I feel like
Mind porn.
games like that, or like an RPG or Skyrim-esque game where you always have like your
Your inventory.
your
is always
inventory.
there.
Oh
You're
yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
give me some shit.
I think that's kind of cool.
My favorite of the Zombie U thing in particular was the augmented reality. So you hold the Wii U pad up in front of the screen, and it changes. The screen remains the same, so no matter where you hold it, you're looking at that exact window. But it's with like a IR overlay.
Well, they
or
did it the
whatever.
best.
Yeah, it
there's
was
no
pretty
doubt
cool.
that what they're doing with it, even down to my Call of Duty friends, which was awesome, is the augmented. So he picked up a sniper rifle, and you could pick up the Wii remote, put it in front of the TV, and then all of a sudden it changes to a sniper crosshair. I thought that was pretty awesome. But I think the other things I'm with Josh. Like I said, the keypad thing, I'm watching that going, oh, fuck that.
You would die so many times.
I'd have to have it up in front of me like this going, God, okay,
Exactly.
okay, I'm looking away. I don't like looking away. And I think that's obviously the appeal, right? The tension.
That's
Yeah.
why your HUD is on the screen. Heads up display, not crotch in my
Display.
tablet
Crotch
display.
display.
So let's
Heads up crotch.
let's circle around and start and hit some of the other games that we played, as well as some of the games that were announced. Let's start with some of the maybe lesser knowns. Jack, hate to say it. Why don't you start with the least known game in all of E3, which you stayed talking to the producer at for quite a while?
There's 2 points I want to bring up about this. One, let's talk about what we did. We stopped. We were randomly walking around, and I came across. I looked over. I'm like, "Oh shit, Jay! Look, it's the Rise of the Guardians game." Which, for people who don't know, that's the movie I'm working on. Sean Fennell's working on, and comes out in November. Fine, Josh, leave, you son of a bitch. I don't like your movie. Racing snails. So we saw that, and I walked over. I'm like, sweet. Let me go see. Movie games are obviously all crap. I think we can count on our hands, maybe with one finger, which games have been successful.
Aladdin, Super
Okay,
Nintendo,
there you go.
1997.
I was gonna go with DuckTales,
I don't know if it's 97.
but
Moonwalker. Sega Genesis,
Touche.
91 or whenever.
So I walked over to check it out, and I was watching the little Asian lady walked up and started playing, and I found it kind of interesting because I was seeing the way they designed the world was parts of the world that in the movie you never get to see, and I had never got to see. So I thought that was cool. All your main characters are there, so I start videotaping, and as I'm videotaping with my iPhone, a guy approaches and starts asking me questions, and then around the corner comes another guy, a little more serious looking, getting ready to tell me I shouldn't be recording any of this, and then he sees my name tag and I work at DreamWorks, and we start talking, and that was one of the cooler conversations we had because that gave, I've been out of the game industry since 2004, and I never knew how the process was. Sean, you probably would have found this cool too. That goes between the game publisher and the film, like a side-by-side kind of interaction. And he walked up and instantly he was like, "Oh, so you know Patrick?" And that's somebody me and Sean works with, who's
he's
the
our production designer.
Yeah, and really really cool guy. Love Patrick a lot. Very creative, very German,
Very tall.
very fashionable.
Yes.
Fashion forward. Jason knows Patrick as well, I believe.
Indeed.
And we started talking, and it was just awesome to talk shop with him and actually really dive into their process and how they work. And this goes for people wanting to play these games, how intertwined they are actually with the film, and that our production designer worked with them and was approving what they were showing down to the character design. And we give them, majority of our concept art. The guys, Brian Etheridge, I believe, is the producer.
Even assets, right?
Yeah, we give them
models.
we gave them I believe we gave them the main character models. He said outside of that, no, they just based off of the concept art and the schematics we have for environments, but then Patrick was there quite often to say, yes, this is how this looks. No, this is... Matter of fact, one of the ones I was blown away with most, a couple things were, I was telling Sean, was the Tooth Palace. When you see in the movie the Tooth Fairy... not giving anything away. You see in the trailer, she has a land, and the detail that they put into the environments in the game was just fascinating. Stuff that me and Sean don't even get to see because of camera angles and whatnot. You just don't get it. That in the game, man, they give it to you. They get you're right down on the surface with these characters, and so all that little secondary stuff.
Yeah, it's really an opportunity to explore the universe.
Oh yeah, and
more than the film has time to explore.
Yeah, and not even fanboying out. I just was impressed. I was really impressed where they took it. You can play up to 5 players on the Xbox, which I thought was kind of cool. And it's an RPG style game, top down kind of thing in the environment. But and it was really cool talking to him and just that whole process down to using actor talent and just how they were financially. And it brought up another my side note to this was Jason was talking about 3D in games, and what I'm really fascinated with was they had that game and they had Madagascar 3, and obviously DreamWorks and Jeffrey Katzenberg, me, Josh, and Sean's boss, is pretty obsessed with 3D, and he's one of the driving forces of the 3D technology in films and making sure it's out there for the world. But yet our games that we put out under said publishers don't go that extra step for the game.
Right.
And I find that interesting, other than we were sort of told what Josh had said and you had said, that financially it is a very expensive undertaking.
It's not just financially; it's actually resource, right? It's like it's expensive in terms of.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In terms of you have to render it twice. You have twice. You're trying to maintain a frame rate here that's real time interactivity, and now you have to all of a sudden render it twice. That's an expensive operation, expensive concept to get behind. But when it's done well, it can be really, really effective. But these kind of things, and this goes back to the very first conversation with Josh and Sean and all of us about E3. That's to me how you can make a day of it. If you actually go there and you are actually interested in any of this crap, those guys are there just for that. Specifically, even get a hold of a producer or somebody who's actually in the know. They got nothing fucking better to do than to tell you, God, every damn thing you want to know about it. And me and Jason, for better or worse, that day were just like
diving down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, dude.
Well,
I mean, fucking tell us. I'm curious.
Well, and for anybody, I haven't been shy about. I am interested in indie game development. That's something that I dabble with at home, and to hear and pick people's brains about their processes and what they go through is very fascinating as well. If you're interested at all in how games are made. it's interesting to pick these people brains, and they're very, very friendly and very willing to share stuff about it too. A couple other quick games I wanted to bring up was over at the Microsoft booth, and I am a gigantic fan of Valve Software out of Bellevue, Washington.
As am I.
The makers of the Half-Life series.
Team Fortress
many,
2.
many other things.
Counter-Strike.
So that's what I wanted to get at, is they're releasing a new Counter-Strike on consoles, and I got to pick up the controller. And after my Battlefield 3
just about to say.
fiasco from earlier, I shook off my lack of confidence, and I picked this up. And I did worse.
It might have been more funnier to watch him in that.
I at one point just ran out with my knife, and the guy was friendly there. He was nice. He kind of said, "Oh yeah, you run faster with your knife." So I ran out and I turned around a corner and I got shot.
Yeah, Counter-Strike is no joke. Those people are hardcore.
Right.
And we
don't have time to make mistakes.
Me and Jason went
guys.
into this after the fact, but yeah, Jason, I mean,
Yeah, it's it's I'm very, very happy to see. I think that Valve has a grasp on single-player campaign with their Half-Life stuff. They've done a great job with that. I think they've done a pretty good job with multiplayer with the Team Fortress stuff. I think they've done a great job with co-op with the Left 4 Dead series. And I think it's interesting to see them start cycling through this stuff. They're now kind of going back towards, and they did single-player again with Portal 2, and then co-op with the Portal 2, the DLC stuff there, which they won a whole bunch of awards for, and then
including a nerdy,
including an unprecedented presented nerdy award, and to see them cyclically go through all of those different forms, and now they happen to be back onto multiplayer. It's just interesting to see them cycle through that. I'm
really curious to see how this takes, and to give perspective of Counter-Strike and this. And me playing competitive for so many years on the PC world, Counter-Strike for the longest time was the number one played multiplayer game at any given time on the internet. When it was tracked, more people played Counter-Strike than any other game, and it was like that for years. And as far as competitive play went, that was one of the, besides for Quake very early on, Counter-Strike was the number one grossing game for anybody who wanted to play video games professionally. It was
interesting because it's such a bare bones,
it is
game experience.
And I talked to Jason about that a bit. When I played Quake competitively, the idea behind it, obviously, it's still a PC driven game that's driven behind a PC, a PC that you have to play the game. But when you play competitively, your goal is to kill somebody else, and you want as many frames as you possibly can get, and you want any advantage you can get. And the advantages in those games were you would dumb the game down so hard that you were playing with pretty much everything looked like polys with khaki shading, just so you could see the character to shoot. And those guys, and the people for years and years, and they still do. They still play Counter-Strike competitively. But I remember it being one of the first games to offer a $100,000 prize at one of the tournaments. So what I'm getting at is I'd be very curious to see how the PC community, which that's Counter-Strike's bread and butter, will transition to the console, and if they'll get like a resurgence of pro players, and if it'll go to MLG as well.
One thing I find interesting about Counter-Strike is it was actually originally done by two dudes in a garage that weren't associated with Valve, and they pretty much kind of worked with Valve and ended up selling it to them, which is very awesome.
And then working with them.
And then ended up being hired by them, right?
Which is exactly similar to Portal. Same exact kind of thing.
I think Counter-Strike's the first first-person shooter multiplayer game that I was ever killed in one shot from completely across the map. The dude was so small you couldn't see him, kind of thing, and just blew my mind. How is it possible that you could do that?
That pissed me off because, like, when I worked at 2K was when I finally played that game.
Those guys are no joke.
And they put it on there like we all play. I'm just like, okay, cool. So I get on, and I died within 3 seconds.
And it sucks because you die and then you wait till the end of the round and then you have no
exactly
money to buy ammo.
I'm just like, all like, and
did you ever play it?
They'll go like, I'm like, well, do I respawn? They're like, we have to wait till the next round. I'm like, when's that? They're like, I mean, it goes quick. It's about like 5 or 7 minutes. I'm like, so I'm just supposed to sit here and do nothing. And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like, fuck this game. So done.
So something that was slightly different with this was you were playing, I believe it's designed that you could play 8 on 8 or whatever it is, and this was if you only had, say, 6 players, 3 per team, they would fill in 5 bots on either team. And if you died, you'd cycle through the view of the other bots on your team, and you could take control of one of those bots. So you could instantly spawn in where that bot was. And I used all the bots on my team very, very quickly. So I've been... I've mentioned on this show before, I am a very big fan of the concept, not always the execution, of open world games. Big fan of exploration in CG worlds. And one of the best open world games I've ever played, still to this day, is Spider-Man 2 for the original Xbox. Came alongside the Spider-Man movie, which was open world of Manhattan, and you could climb up any skyscraper, and you could just literally jump off.
I did that so much.
Swan dive
so
off.
much in that game.
It was so much fun, and then you just sling a web out, and it would hit, and you'd be swinging between buildings, and you could get so much speed and do these big aerial tricks. So much fun. I mean, even the game, you're supposed to go kill bad guys. I was like, no, I'm swing around buildings.
That's all I did too. I just swung out everywhere.
It was so much fun. And what I find interesting is there's been several Spider-Man games since then, all of which have strayed away from that, because that's a big undertaking to do open world. That's big undertaking. But there's a new Spider-Man game out, and this was at E3, but I actually believe the game's already out, called The Amazing Spider-Man, which is going to coincide with the movie that we had our guest 2 weeks ago, Dan Camp, who worked on it. The Amazing Spider-Man game is going back to that, and they actually mention that lovers of Spider-Man 2, the game, are going to really enjoy the fact that this is back to open world Manhattan. You can climb up to the top of the highest skyscraper and swan dive right off all over again. And I was very happy to say that I got to go and get my hands on it and actually try it out a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in there. I'm definitely excited.
The game
about
looked
that.
amazing. So I watched somebody play for a while and over his shoulder, and the graphical look of Spider-Man and the moves that he was fighting Killer Croc, and it gave you these submenus as Killer Croc rushed at you. It goes into like a slow-mo option, like hit Y, and it would go into a transition of him leaping over or whatever. Animation looks sick. The look of it looks sick. Even him firing the web. And I'm not really excited about those kinds of games, but that looked pretty amazing. Like, no pun intended, but it looked amazing. Yeah. And I let alone the building thing you're saying, because that's what I would do. I already know I would sit there and just swing from buildings.
Oh, it's so much fun.
It was awesome, because the only real big open world games that anybody really played at that time too, when that game came out, was like Vice City,
Grand Theft
Auto series. And you just had that. Now you got to be Spider-Man in this exact same sort of world. And you were just like, and you can you'd go to the Empire State Building, and it's just like, can I reach the very, very tip top of it? So you're trying to reach
yes, you can.
But
you can stand on the point?
Pretty much.
And you can crawl up there, but I mean, it was a long wait if you wanted to crawl. So you're trying to swing and slingshot yourself up as high as you can
to do the least amount of
amount of climbing, and then you'd climb up and you're just like, "Wow, this is cool!" Yeah, just balls deep.
Did any of you ever suicide just to see what it was? Did anybody ever slam the ground?
You only do it once though, or once or twice. You're kind of like, that was
because at the same
weak sauce.
Because then you'll respawn or whatever. You'll start the game again at your last checkpoint, and you're just like, "Oh man, it took me a while to kind of get over
that's way up there.
That's really far away. I really don't want to do that again."
And then one thing I really enjoyed about it was, like I said, there's all these crimes you can help, pickpockets and things on the street level. But if you preferred being up in all the buildings and all this stuff, they had collectibles. So there's there's 100 tokens or whatever that you can go find, or spots to take pictures.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time
taking pictures.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then they had some really cool stuff. I mean, it went all out. They had news helicopters that would go fly in patterns, and you could swing off of a building. You could spray a web line onto the bottom of a helicopter, swing around their pattern, drop off onto the onto the Statue of Liberty, and you could be on the whatever it is, the island. I'm blanking on the name. Liberty Island. And you could be on Liberty Island or whatever, and then you'd have to be on her tip top of the torch to jump off and swing back onto the helicopter to get back to Manhattan.
So you'd have to wait for the heli to come back?
Because there was a collectible out on the island.
Oh, so you had to figure out how to even get there? Because can you swim out there?
No, you can't. Well, hit the water and you die. So very...
Of course. Jump off Empire State Building, live, swim, die.
This is an Aquaman. But incredibly fun game, and I have to say, I think they're trying to do a little bit more offering for everybody. So there's the open world, there's the big city, you can swing off the big buildings and stuff like that. But I talked to the guy who was one of the developers, and he was actually saying they did a lot to do, because the one thing about Spider-Man 2 is you rarely went inside buildings, rarely. But the Amazing Spider-Man is they're trying to offer, you can do open world all throughout Manhattan, including
you gonna buy it?
Inside a lot of buildings. Heavily considering it, yeah. I have a lot of backlog of games to get through right now, including, but not limited to, Harry Potter, years, whatever it is.
Lego?
Yeah, Lego Harry
Josh,
Potter.
you going to buy it?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm kind of actually contemplating getting Max Payne 3.
Ooh, bad
Actually,
call.
right now. What do you mean bad call?
Max Payne.
I see a lot. I see a lot of people on my Steam
Mark
friends
Wahlberg
list playing it.
Mark Wahlberg ruined Max Payne.
Regiv's playing it. I'll ask him how that is. I saw him on Steam the other night jump on and play.
I looked at
Like Sean playing Plant for Zombies.
I read a lot
game.
of stuff on it and watched a lot of videos, and the reviews are good on it.
There was guys dressed up as those zombies, by the way.
Oh,
at
yeah?
the convention. It was pretty funny.
So, let's see here. Let's work. There's a lot of fun stuff. I want to talk about what I thought, and you guys, I want to hear your thoughts as well. For me, I always look forward to the biggest surprise. So, Josh, you were talking about earlier about how nothing is really a surprise because you see it all on the news. And I would argue that even before that, stuff gets started. Like nowadays, stuff gets leaked like the week before that. And so it's like any huge announcement that might be a surprise may not even be a surprise because it was leaked. Somebody found some...
Oops, accidentally leaked that.
Yeah, it could be.
Oh, no!
But there was one thing that I was incredibly surprised by, one announcement that I wrote down in my book, gets the vote as the biggest surprise of E3, which was a new game. I believe it's by Ubisoft again. I actually don't know that for 100%
Yeah, I think
sure.
it is.
I think it is.
Those guys bring the tech, yo.
They really do. And it's a game
Technical
called
penis.
Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs is basically
Open world.
It's an open world, very, very similar, honestly, incredibly similar looking to Grand Theft Auto. Clearly that's what they're trying to chase. But the graphics
We're very good, for sure.
I mean, probably the best in show graphics-wise for the entire show. I will say it's unclear right now if that's actually aimed at next-gen consoles or if that's going to be current-gen release. I think that's a little bit up in the air. But they did actually release a real gameplay, 10-minute piece of it or whatever, and it looks absolutely amazing. And it's very much Grand Theft Auto, except the character looks to be more... cyber digital, you can control. You've got a little data pad that you can control security cameras and stoplights and security electronic doors and things of that nature. You can hack people's cell phones, so it looks to be kind of vibe, but incredibly interesting look. Graphically, very, very impressive. Even some of the action looked really, really interesting to me. And again, I think the fact that I hadn't ever heard of it before, kudos for keeping that under wraps, because that was a very, very nice surprise. So we'll post a link to that one as well. What about you guys? Were there any massive surprises that you guys weren't anticipating?
I have two, but Josh, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Do you have anything?
I mean, we know what Halo 4... I mean, we know that Halo 4 was being there. I was very surprised to see what the content was in it with being the Forerunners technology.
I don't want to put a crunch on you, but let's table that for a quick second.
Fair enough. That's
a big conversation.
That was one for me, and then the other one was actually like that game Beyond, that game with Ellen Page. Like seeing that, I'm just like, oh shit, I'm sold. I'm sold on it. Like I want to get it and play it like right now. It showed zero gameplay whatsoever.
Which one is that? Is that who puts that out? Like, what's the?
It was people who did Heavy Rain, which is Sony, and it's Sony Europe, I believe. I think they did Heavy Rain. I think they did. Did they do Heavenly Sword as well?
Okay.
But yeah, it's just it showed her, and it's just the premise of it just seemed awesome. And you'll have to watch it. We'll put a link up on there, but yeah, to me that was I can't describe it. You just have to see it. To me, that was my biggest surprise, and I'm just like, okay, I'm juiced for that one. But again, it was just a video.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, but we're going to wrap up the show with some talks of the big first-person shooters towards the end. But we've got a couple other things to hit first. Sean, any big surprises from the news that you read, heard about, videos you saw?
I think I already mentioned it.
Yeah. Zombie U and the other one you mentioned.
Halo 4.
Yeah. Thank you. Jack?
2 from the show floor. One was Razer's venture into the laptop world with their laptop called
Razer, the peripheral company.
Yes, not actual shaving razors, but Razer's.
Gillette is now making laptops.
Yes, I own one of their Mises. I own a Death Adder mouse. It's one of the best Mises I've ever used. And I just want to say Mises a lot.
Moosin?
But this is their dive into the laptop world, and no shit, it is the coolest. It is the coolest PC laptop I've ever seen, hands down. It's a bigger laptop. It's 17-inch, but it's pretty much their play on a MacBook Pro as far as look. But
it didn't look anything like a MacBook Pro.
Oh, it did. It did to a T. Just even down to I'm looking at yours right now, down to the design. The only thing that was different was they've chosen to, and it's matte black, but they've chosen to take
as opposed to aluminum.
Yes.
So not alike at all.
What are you talking about?
Continue.
I'm telling you, it looked just like it. Well, we have pictures; you can see it. And actually, they're already selling this product, so you can go to their site and check it. And we'll put a link out. But they moved the trackpad off to the right to play up more for the gamer who maybe wants to use it for that instead of having the trackpad specifically, maybe where you'd have your wrist sitting to move around, and they want to have people more interactive with their trackpad. The cool thing about their trackpad is underneath the trackpad it is an LCD, as well as some of you might remember the most expensive keyboard alive, which was the Optimus Maximum, I think it's called, and basically the whole keyboard is controlled by individual LCDs underneath the keypad that you could customize whatever you want. Well, they took 8 of those keys and put them above the LCD trackpad. So that's also part of the laptop. And that in itself was just, which you could program, put images of boobs all through there,
all
whatever you want to do.
Just five buttons of porn. And then
it has, I looked up the specs today. It's got a 256 SSD drive in it, stock.
8 gig of RAM.
8 gig RAM, i7, souped up i7.
So they have 2. They have a base that's 2.5 gigahertz, is dual i7, and then they have a turbo, which is a 3.5 gigahertz. And it's got a GeForce 555.
2 gig of RAM video card.
Yeah.
To add to that, my impression was that it looked, for anybody who has a MacBook or a MacBook Pro, looked nothing like that. It was incredibly matte black, sleek. I actually think it looks cooler than a lot of the MacBook designs.
Oh, I think it looks cool. I just think it to me, it was the closest thing I've seen to a MacBook. Like, as far as a company shooting for design, finally, I give them the award.
Samsung does stuff that's much closer to the MacBook Pro. But
actually, there's an HP one where they don't even blatantly fight the fact
it looks identical.
It looks to a fucking T like a MacBook.
Anyway,
it has an Apple on the top.
But like you said, the trackpad was
cool as hell.
The trackpad was completely off to the right.
Where the numpad would normally be.
Yeah,
but
they're pretty much.
Yeah, and completely matte black. So I think pretty different than the MacBook Pro, but an incredible looking machine. My issue with it is given those
the
specs,
price tag.
It was the price tag with it, which was $20.
Much like a Mac, it was $2,800, and it is on their site. You can purchase it. There is no, at this time. We actually talked to the PR rep for Razer, who was a nice guy as well.
Yeah, awesome guy.
Super nice guy. Right now, they don't offer any kind of customizations on it. I would personally love a 15-inch version of it.
What is it?
It's a 17.
Oh, okay.
It's designed
it's
designed to game, dude. It's a gaming laptop, no doubt. So that was one thing.
But
that
some other gaming laptop, like you look at Alienware's laptops, and they get up there in price as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
But they get up there. A lot of theirs because of the customizations you can add to them, and they're much thicker laptops. I guess that's why I come back to the MacBook.
Beefy. They got
like what did he say about the batteries? Like he says as thin as, I don't know. We'll have to show pictures, and we took video of it as well.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the other thing at the convention that actually I thought was pretty cool and laughable all at the same time, coming from playing basketball, and Josh knows, a company is coming out with a game as sort of a game / training simulator for basketball players or people who want to play basketball or just to get a little more active with your Kinect at home. That basically tracks the basketball as well. Obviously, the comical thing we've all talked about after the fact is, I don't know many of us who have a parquet floor in our living room to play this. Like the show floor, they had nice wood floors and brought out professional basketball players to show it off. The sports guy basketball player nerd in me, I thought it was cool as hell. It was awesome.
As long as they play the Harlem Globetrotters.
By the way,
No, dude, this chick was playing the LAFMO.
LMFAO.
Yeah, going like bam, 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 bam. And like she's like doing like the beat to that.
Yeah,
And then like between that she had to do like a head fake. She was like pump fake, head fake, and like switching it from left to right. And it's
By
like
the way,
Guitar Hero.
the design of the booth was it looked very much like Guitar Hero.
The
this
booth
game
was
with-
cool, I thought.
Well, no, Devin, the booth had a chain link fence around like a basketball court
Nice.
kind of a thing. And if you had, I wish I had a picture of this, but if you had looked at Jack, he had his hands up on the chain link.
Dude, I
fence, like looking in on the game.
I was like a
let me
little
play.
kid. I'm
You
not
did.
lying.
looked
You
like
talk
a
about
kid.
being like a little kid at a convention, Josh, and that was a game I knew nothing about. So when I showed up, and I purposely this year didn't watch any of the videos leading up to it. I wanted that kind of because I knew, in all fairness, when I've been with Josh many years prior to this, and you're right, me and Josh will just do a couple hours, and the year before Jason was there, and we talked, and I said to Jason, you know what, dude, next year, dude, me and you, buddy. So part of me trying to motivate myself, thinking it would be lame, was I'm not going to watch anything. And that in its own, and Josh, I would even tell you if we go next year, just try it for 1 year.
Oh no, Josh is going with us next year.
Just
There's no
try,
doubt
just
about it.
try it once.
Sean?
And it's Sean too.
Yeah,
If we can get you, if we can get you back, I put that challenge to all of us. Damn it! Try not to look at because it makes the
That's,
experience
hey.
actually fun again.
I
That's- I
would
didn't
have
know
been there this year if it wasn't for having to work
Yeah,
on the movie.
That's
Yeah.
by the way, you just brought up a new thing we're going to do on the show, which is we have weekly challenges. You now
Don't
do
watch the internets. Just listen to us. Listen to us. Don't
Jack
watch the
Jack
internet.
just instituted the yearly challenge, which
is I
I do that when it comes to the Olympics.
I'm amped about I'm right now sitting here amped about that basketball game. I don't know how I'm going to play it in my house because that is the funny thing, and maybe I need to research it. And I say this to
Put
everybody.
some
in the group.
laminate floor in your garage and go for it.
Yeah,
dude.
what do you guys think? What do you think their business model like? Who's
their
going to
audience?
do it?
I don't know.
How are you going to dribble that? If you live in Josh brought up, if you live in an apartment and you're on the second or third
Yeah.
floor, you're definitely not doing
if
it.
you have carpet in your living room,
Well, I could argue as a kid I was still rocking the basketball on my carpet, but my parents didn't like it, and I won't recommend that to anybody right now who's of age listening. Don't do that.
who's of age?
But how are they expecting? Yeah, I don't know what they're expecting. Some like in the garage maybe or something.
could be the garage.
Projected on the wall.
So, has any of you guys gotten into the Splinter Cell franchise?
I played one.
Played the first
I played
two.
the first.
I don't like
one.
the sneaking games. They take too long,
Yeah,
kind of boring.
really burned out on the sneaking games.
Yep, I'm with you. I 100% agree. They take too long. They're too boring. I will say the gameplay trailer, whatever you want to call it, that Ubisoft put out first. I think
It
again
is their series.
Ron
For-
Burgundy?
for Splinter
Until he did that.
for new game Splinter Cell Blacklist.
Blacker than black.
That's right. It is blacker than black.
I thought was a pretty cool
Now the video looked kind of cool.
gameplay. Looked pretty cool.
Every year they do.
But what I watched on it, and you guys who play, I'm going to go Black Ops, the single player, and even Modern Warfare 2, the parts of the game I fucking hate are the ones where you have to hide your way to get... Dude, even the Spec Ops.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Christ. If I got to play another Spec Ops where I got to sneak to the end of the map... Dude, I'm playing that game to blow some shit up. Do not make me sneak through the map. And I think of that. I'm like, dude, I'm not Snake Plissken or whoever his name is in the game, dude.
Sam Fisher?
Sam Fisher. My bad. That's us. That's Escape from New York, dude. My bad. But you guys get what I'm saying. Like, that to me in those games is horrible. Why the fuck would I spend to play an entire game doing that? That sucks.
So we'll post a link to that as well.
For you guys who like that.
I agree. The gameplay wise, sneak games aren't the most fun, but you got to watch this thing.
Watch the video. The video is
the
cool.
action.
Was
The
it
action of the
Freddie Wong that did a video that kind of parodied the
Oh, that's right. Where he just goes behind and shoots the lights out.
yeah
Every
he's
time,
shooting
yeah.
the lights out behind everyone, and the
you-
guy
have you
turns
seen it,
around and is
Jason?
like, huh, all right.
There is one thing that I don't think we looked at before the show, but I guess there's a move that is pretty common in the Splinter Cell universe where you can trigger a button. Like if you're hiding near a guy, you can trigger a button that will force your guy to say like, "Psst, hey," and it'll make that guy look or turn the other way or something like that. So there's now connect functionality, so you can actually say
it.
You can go, "Psst, hey," and your character will say it. And so I like that.
Look up here!
Hey!
Yeah, exactly. I would do dumb shit. I'm going to shoot you in the back of the head.
Exactly. I love that.
Repeat.
Yo, man, can I hold a dollar? Can I hold a dollar? Come here.
Okay, so next on the list, like we said, this is an all E3 show, and we're going full-fledged for it. So we're not done yet. So I know Josh and Jack, you guys have played this. Not sure about you, Sean, but the Gears of War games.
Yeah, I haven't been a fan. Sorry, guys.
No, I'm with
You
you.
take it away.
I think you and Jason, I think, aren't fans, and me and Josh have been pretty consistent fans.
I like the engine, and I love what Epic does. Like, they really push their engine with these games, and I really admire that.
I actually like watching their engine
Yeah,
game demos, but not the gameplay.
No, same here. And for me, the problem, I hate to admit this, but the problem all stems from the design of the characters. They're basically like these big round balls, and I just don't like that design.
They're awesome.
Just don't like that design.
Exactly, Josh. Go ahead and enlighten.
Go Bears.
So what'd you think, Josh? So obviously the announcement is that there's a new Gears of War game called Gears of War Judgment, which is a
Prequel.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I just remembered one of the surprises. You go ahead. You talk about.
No. You know what, Sean? We'll come back. I am fascinated with whatever epiphany you just had.
They'll talk about it.
Or Jay, are you okay with that?
I don't control this thing. We are a natural occurring podcast.
Sean?
What? No, right now?
Right
I
fucking
thought you were
now.
going to talk about Gears of War.
No. You don't have epiphanies like this, so I'm excited.
So the trailer for this new South Park game totally blew me away. No, I'm serious. It looks just like the fucking TV show, and I'm in.
I'm 100%.
so in.
I completely brain farted on that. I am fully
Endorsing
Sean's 100%.
It looks fun and funny and calamity and just purely South Park, and I'm so excited to just play this game that looks like South Park.
I tried to find it.
Is it a 2D? Do they do like the 2D shading and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. It
It
literally
looks
looks
exactly-
just like
Is it
the show.
is it a side scroller?
I don't know.
I'm
assuming
it's really
so.
the
We
trailer
didn't see
made
it.
it very difficult to tell like what actually is going on, but the engine is you're watching the TV show. It's
Because it's not like they
Well,
really
it's not like
have-
that tech
They don't
is
really have a
advanced.
difficult engine.
no,
when
it's
they
not a
render it to
difficult
begin
engine,
with.
but it's just it was just so true to the TV show that I'm like,
Yeah.
I totally got to play this.
It's like
game.
the premise, like
Can you play 4 players? Like everybody could be that'd be a
I don't
good
know,
Nerdtastic
because
game.
like the premise
You
was
are the 5th kid trying to be the 5th boy in the story.
Yeah.
basically.
Oh, is that what it is?
yeah,
Yeah.
you
That's
are the,
funny.
you are the new kid.
You're the new kid
That's
that moved into
funny.
South Park.
yeah.
And the press briefing, Microsoft press briefing, they had the guys
Matt and Trey.
Yeah, thank you. They came out and they basically said, we told ourselves that if we were ever going to do a South Park game, which I was like, haven't you done like 9 of them so far? Haven't there been other South Park games? I swear.
Maybe
I don't
know.
1 or 2. Yeah,
But they said if we were ever going to do a South Park game, it would have to be that an experience where you felt like you were actually like living an episode of South Park, and they finally feel like they're able to do that. And I agree.
I think it seemed like they knocked it out of the park.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I gotta watch it then. It's really cool.
Well, you're just kind of like, I want to do that.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's so cool.
Can you make your own? Can you make your own character?
Yeah, that's
That's
the thing.
awesome.
You're the new, like, because it starts going through a bunch of
characters.
random
It's like,
characters. It's like do, and then just question mark. It's like you, and you're like, oh shit, I want to make my South Park character right now.
So,
Mr. Bojangles.
so
Gears
of
Do you
War.
want to talk about it?
Yep.
a bit? Josh, me, you.
I thought, did I get lost in the translation of it? I thought it was like an add-on, or is it a whole new game?
Whole new game.
Hold on, game prequel.
Okay. I'm not really that excited for it. Yeah, I played the third one. Third one was fun story-wise. I'm kind of over their online multiplayer games. They're okay. They're very, I don't know. The shotguns are like one-shot wonders, and Yeah, I'm just not a fan of that.
Not doing it for you.
No, but I mean, their horde mode was pretty fun, and especially the fact that you can play as the Locust and being able to play those type of things. Like, I loved being a berserker. Being a berserker was so much fun, but I got my fill, so I ended up selling that game back like pretty quickly, and got I was just like, I got like $35 or $40 for it, and I was just like, I definitely got $20 worth of use out of this thing. So.
Jack?
So I'm sort of with Josh. I mean, I even fell off faster than Josh. I'm a fan of it. I was blown away by the first one, and I think as a group, me, Josh, and some of our other friends back in the day got more than our money's worth out of the multiplayer and that experience. I always hated the 4-on-4 mentality, though, the max they could do at the time. 2, played through it with Josh, was fun. 3, haven't finished it yet. Didn't play any of the multiplayer. Actually, I have it at home, and it just fell off. I'll tell you, though, after watching the video, though, the single-player thing, this is what it is. The multiplayer aspect they're adding to this one, I'm kind of fascinated with, because it touches on what I played in Quake and then Team Fortress 2, which I also played, which is a class-based multiplayer where you could be a medic, a sniper, a grenade. It basically, where it forces teamwork. I'm a big fan of the forced teamwork kind of thing, and those kinds of gimmicks work, I think, in a different, non-modern setting. I feel like it doesn't work as well in Battlefield like 2 and 3. I mean, they have it and you can revive people, and I know it's supposed to be there and make you better. I feel that you get lost in the shuffle really easy.
Big. It's way too big.
But I'll tell you, from playing competitively Team Fortress 2, it's pretty key having classes, and everybody's supposed to be doing something specific, and you do that specific thing, and you have to, and if you don't, you lose. And they're doing that in this game, and I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated with the Locust characters too. I hadn't really seen in multiplayer that they showed. I thought that was pretty neat,
and that's why I thought it was like a downloadable game. I thought it was like this kind of side thing where you were able to play that. I didn't know it was a full game because they emphasize so much on multiplayer and the classes.
I think because that's the big new thing. I think the single player going to the prequels just says, hey. We're going to give you a backstory, but nothing's new. Nothing's new in that world.
We're going to give you a first-person campaign so that you can play our multiplayer game forever.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the gist I got. So that's my take. Honestly, I don't know. I'll buy it though.
You will?
No, I don't. I feel like I don't know. I'm still. For
I
better
could
or
spend
worse,
$7 and rent it for a week.
Yeah,
and that would be awesome. And then I'm done.
Pirates of the Caribbean
Yar!
was directed by
This Cherubie Hoy says
a talented gentleman. Goes by the name of Gore Verbinski. Gore started his career with a movie called The Mexican, a romantic comedy with
Brad
Pitt and
Julia Roberts.
Roberts and James Gandolfini. And then he went on to do a movie called The Ring, one of the most terrifying horror movies I've ever seen.
And me as well. I'm with you, Jason.
And from there, he went on to do the Pirates of the Caribbean blockbuster movie. So now he's got a romantic comedy, a horror, and a giant fantasy action thing. So then he says, well, what's left? I haven't done animation yet. No problem. Let's do a movie called Rango. So he does Rango. And then he says, okay, well, I guess I've pretty much conquered the movie world. Let's go do a video game. So Gore Verbinski, his new project was announced. It's called Matter. And there was a trailer for it. And
that doesn't seem to matter.
I was going to say, Sean, give me your thoughts on that. You saw it today.
It was super confusing, and I have absolutely no idea what the point of what he's trying to sell. What is he selling?
Yeah, and I think that's that. Because I think I completely agree.
To me, it's him leveraging the look of Portal and the feel of Portal meets Marble Madness for the Kinect. It's exactly what I felt.
Portable madness.
See what I did there? See what I did? That's the feel I took from it, which is if that's your kind of thing, then cool.
But I'm the one in the group who doesn't like Portal, so... I'm really with you. The trailer, I was confused by it. From the director of Pirates of the Caribbean comes, here's a sphere and some cubes.
Yeah. An eyeball sphere.
Yeah.
2 eyeball spheres.
And it looked like they were kissing.
Yeah, with their eyeball tongues.
So there's
technical penis.
So gross.
Another game that was demoed heavily this year that I wanted to spawn into a little bit of a discussion with you guys about Microsoft press briefing. Some couple of Japanese fellows came out and introduced themselves briefly and showed off their game, Resident Evil 6.
Hi.
So Resident Evil 6, they showed off some of their gameplay. They showed off some of the a little bit of the cinematic works, a little bit of the action stuff. And did any of you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
Nope.
I was incredibly underwhelmed. Incredibly underwhelmed. I think...
Do you play them? Have you played the others?
I never have. My observation was less about the Resident Evil as much as, for me, I feel like for the first time in the last, like, say, 2 years... in the last 2 years, for the very first time in gaming history, we've had a scenario where I feel like American developers are doing graphically things that are graphically more advanced and innovative than Japanese game developers. And I don't know that I've ever noticed that before. So all this to say, we saw at the Microsoft thing, you saw the Halo announcement, which again we're going to talk about, and then you saw some footage from like Battlefield, and you saw some big stuff, some Splinter Cell, and all these basically kind of North American, like Western companies. And then you see Resident Evil 6, and it literally looked like a GameCube. I mean, the graphics were just, I hate to say it, but they were so subpar compared to everything else, these big blockbuster epics that have been done. And I felt for the first time like Japan seems like they're stuck in 2002. Like,
well, we talked about this. I feel they spend the money on fighting games. I feel they're still pushing that boundary as far as your Street Fighters, your Tekkens, all that. I feel like they're still doing that really well and pushing that tech a bit. But
none of where's
that.
the game
Right.
where you can be in a subway and you have to like stalk a girl and rape her?
What are you
They're still,
talking
no,
about?
that's a real game.
Those are
Japanese games. So, Josh, you've worked on Resident Evil games. Two, you have played them, I believe. What was your take on it? Since you said you saw it,
I don't know. It kind of just looked the same. It was, I thought 5 looked good. 5 played good. It's just the way their art is in terms of how they shade things and how they, color things, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, all right, here's the 6th one. And the story just kind of reaches a little bit now. It just...
That's what I said. I feel like they are pulling for anything story-wise to make that keep going.
I'm trying to remember even, like, because they had a trailer for it a little while ago. When... I think the Japanese trailer, because over there it's called Biohazard. It's not called Resident Evil. It's Biohazard. And it was like there was a trailer for Biohazard 6.
Teen.
Huh?
Nothing?
16?
Continue.
Do you play them, Sean?
No, I never got into them.
4 was fucking awesome.
I had a friend that loved them to death.
That's the thing. I think they have a
1
user
was
base.
awesome. 4 was awesome. 5 was pretty good. Pupson like 5 a lot.
I think it's like the Nintendo thing, Jason. I think it's just it's a very hardcore user base of people who play those games.
A big cult following.
Exactly.
But I don't.
And they're going to buy it regardless of what they put out.
I
Seriously.
guess it's just funny to me that what. Let's say you as a country, not that Japan is heavily influenced in this, but you as a country, the development that you choose to show off at one of the world's biggest gaming conventions is stuff that really looks like, hey, it's 10 years old.
Dude, look at the Wii. When the Wii got launched,
I
was floored that both PS3 and Xbox, we all 360 saw what they did, and then you see the Wii, and I could not wrap my brain around that they were okay with doing that.
No, I hear what you're saying. That's a completely separate,
graphically.
That's a completely separate issue for me.
That's a Japanese thing. That's a Japanese.
I know. What I'm talking about is specifically you're putting forth. This is not a Wii game. This is a Xbox 360 PS3 game, and you're putting it out there to compete against Halo and Black Ops.
It is a Wii game as well, though.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Wii version of it.
It's a Wii game.
Oh yeah, that was like Josh's game. Right?
Either
You could
way,
use the controller to,
like I brought up, what you're showing,
crap, like I don't know,
what you're showing this off at is a Microsoft Xbox press briefing. That's where they showed this off at, and that's where you could go see it at Microsoft's booth. They're showing this up next to gameplay footage of Counter-Strike, and I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at the two, and I'm like, I do not understand how you can put this out there and think, yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Well, you want to go forward. I mean, obviously, Counter-Strike to me still looks like shit if you want to get...
Yeah,
Right.
But that's their play. That's their game, and that hasn't changed, and that's fine
But
for them.
ultimately, my point with this, Jack, is that Japan, or Capcom, or whatever you want to say, what they put out there is, it seems so.
I was about to
10
say
years
Sony's
ago.
Japan too, so they seem to do okay.
But he's right. No, I agree that... but I feel like that's with any company. If you choose to want to dumb your crap down, to dumb it down, especially on a game that's known for cinematics and it looking a certain way, then there's no reason at all for that. If you're a game known for Minecraft, you know what you're getting. There's no reason for them to try to put money into making it something it's not.
To me, I think it was just the lighting. The lighting of it just really kind of made it look like shit.
Yeah, I mean, the lighting.
Well, that's there's no excuse for it,
the
though, on those
resolution.
games.
Right,
The resolution wasn't as bad. It's just the
I
fact
don't
of like
know.
the texture mapping and the lighting on it.
It was pretty
It just makes it
tessellated.
look like it's that texture mapping. It's like, you know, oh, we're trying to make something look 3D that's flat,
It looked.
and
Pretty,
you're just kind of like, meh.
it looked pretty tessellated to me. I don't know.
You're tessellated.
Let's see. So I think we'll hit a little bit of. Let's talk about this one. Is right up your alley, Jack. Facebook is doing SimCity social version.
I just don't even know what that is. We didn't look at it long enough.
Neither
What does
do
that
I.
mean?
I believe they're doing a
I am
Facebook-
amped about, and I told you guys, I'm amped about the new SimCity.
And
game.
I believe this is a SimCity, a version of SimCity for Facebook, like a Facebook
Like
game.
Farmville or something else.
I think so. Like,
I'm gonna play the hell out of that shit.
I'm sure it's free to play. I'm sure there's you can buy upgraded carrots
I
and
will
power
not,
lines and.
because I'm not on Facebook.
Sean's still sticking it to the man. You can reach him though through the Nerdtastic Facebook page. He loves that.
So, a couple of other little industry-related things this week, kind of related to E3, kind of not. THQ. We've reported before that it really looked like THQ is kind of starting to circle the drain. I know, Jack, you and I talked to a couple of publishers at E3 about, looked like they were maybe getting some of THQ's licensing from other companies, like D3 Publishing grabbing what looked like some DreamWorks licensing material. But THQ is closing their San Diego studio. They've officially announced. Officially closing the San Diego studio.
Is that a big division for them?
I have no idea.
Josh, do you know?
Yes. Oh, they did WWE series stuff.
And you, what was the other one? The Ultimate Fighting UFC?
Yeah.
Well, that's
UFC
what
game?
killed it because EA got the UFC license,
Ah.
and so
Back to EA buying up those sports
Buying up
licenses.
all the
dude.
sports.
what was it?
All them sports.
I love like somebody posted the comments underneath it, and it was Jon Stewart, and it said "Dick Move of the Week," and it was just Jon Stewart like smiling, and it was just thanks
Remember when
EA.
Midway used to be big into the sports thing before they...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Midway. Then they partnered with Atari, and Atari just went down, and Midway went down, and
Because Midway used to do the wrestling games, didn't they?
Yeah.
there's a few that did them. But yeah, that was the nail in the coffin. They did the WWE series.
That's right. My Raw vs. SmackDown was THQ that I worked on.
They did
2006,
that one.
baby.
They did the All Stars one, which is the last one they did, and then they were doing the UFC one, and then
I thought the All
Once
Stars
you can't-
game did good, though. I thought that sold pretty well, I thought.
I'm sure it did
It
okay.
got good reviews.
It did okay, but it not enough to sustain the studio when that's
You're already
their-
sinking.
Yeah, you're already sinking, and then your one license that you have, or not even have, but the one of their next
You
main
know-
title is all gone.
You know what that's like.
Oh no, not at all.
That did never happen to a little studio
you,
called
EA.
2K Sports. What?
Stupid.
So,
Hi, we're gonna buy
one
the
other
NFL.
one other bit of industry-related news. Unfortunately, this has happened over the last 2 weeks, which we actually haven't gotten to report on much. But there was a studio in Rhode Island called 38 Studios, which did a game called Kingdoms of Amalur. They were funded and owned by an ex-Major League Baseball player, and they had gotten partially funded by the state of Rhode Island. Big tax breaks, big influx into that company.
And big debt.
And
Was
so,
this the one that also had money from Mr. Todd McFarlane?
I don't believe so.
I haven't heard that.
Okay, go ahead.
So, 38 Studios, they took a loan from the state, from the taxpayers, and the first, they put out Kingdoms of Amalur. Don't think it did quite as well as they were hoping. The first bill for the debt came up. $1.25 million was owed back to the state of Rhode Island, and the company did not pay it. And so instantly the government got involved, and basically it's been a really, really big up and down thing where if that company were to go under, the taxpayers of Rhode Island would now have to pay the state back. So basically this government gave a taxpayer-based loan to this company, and if they defaulted, the taxpayers now have to make up for it, which is a really shady operation. And so it was getting a lot of press. And it's very unfortunate to say that unfortunately the company actually closed down its doors. It's officially ended.
They couldn't even pay, I think, their employees their last.
Does that mean that government
check,
is
too.
bad business?
No,
Could be in that case.
We are back. Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulty. We cut out, but we're back. We were in the middle of talking about the 38 Studios, which unfortunately closed its doors. It did file for bankruptcy. I believe it was today. If not, maybe it was yesterday. But this is why I think the story is ultimately interesting. It's not because 38 Studios closed its doors. 38 Studios owns another studio called Big Huge Games, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And there's some really good talent there. They're based in Baltimore.
Okay.
And Epic, not hurting for money, doing very, very well with the Unreal Engine, they came along and they actually said, you know what? All these employees that just lost your jobs, don't worry about it. We just created Epic Baltimore. We just basically, if you want to come work for us, you have a job.
So stay where you're at that studio. We're just buying you out.
Absolutely. You just now work for Epic. And they created Epic Baltimore, and they have managers that are now running that. And it wasn't quite that straightforward. Specifically, they did have some conversations and work specifically so that there's a specific property that this company is going to work on. But incredibly cool. I mean, that just goes to show a great company that's doing really well for themselves.
USA. USA.
USA.
I've never heard that. That's awesome. Oh, God. Sean, this is why I love having you here. For clutch moments like that, dude.
Oh, shit. That's awesome. USA.
I was like, huh?
USA.
So we're almost nearing the big discussions of the floor, which are the first-person shooters. But one more thing before we hit that is Jack.
You're such a tease, JJ.
I know. I try. Jack and I unanimously agreed between the two of us that there was
the word on the street.
That there was one moment that made the entire day for us at E3. No matter how much fun we had, go any other place, talking to any other people, there was one moment that we will look back on for the rest of this year and laugh hysterically about. And Jack, would you like to do the honors?
Oh, by all means.
We wrapped up the day with this.
And this goes back to what I said with Josh. There's always a moment, at least even when we and Josh have went over the course of the last couple of years, we find one game. We act like a complete jackass at this game.
I was trying to find this game, by the way, to do your technique.
Wait, how'd you know about my technique?
I showed them the video at lunch, and this will be up on YouTube, and everybody will get to witness.
We call this technique the Carter, by the way.
The Carter. Sean was doing it. We walked over, like I saw the Lego had a sort of a booth with their properties, and Jason's a huge fan.
Of the Lego video games.
Yeah, the Lego franchise of video games. And I'm a fan of Legos in general. So I saw it and I said, "Oh, Jason, come on, it's your stuff, dude. Let's go check it out."
And sorry to add to that, we hadn't played a ton of games that day. We played maybe less than half a dozen, I think, because lines are really, really long.
Well, we talked to a lot of people, and
Absolutely.
it was more of an informational thing, I think, for me and Jason for the most part. So honestly, we were having fun, but I didn't feel like we were losing anything.
No, absolutely. But we hadn't played a lot of games.
Yeah. So we walked over to this booth and we're just looking at the games, and this guy jumps out behind this wall and goes, "Hey, want to play?" Literally, he's like, "Hey, want to play?" And I have no idea, dude. Seriously, I have no idea what he has, what his wares he's selling. And I look at Jason, I go, "We're in." And Jason just, his eyes light up. He's like, "Jack, what the fuck?" And I drag him in behind this bookcase, and sure enough, it's some Harry Potter game. I'm assuming we're going to be playing some Lego thing. And he goes, "Okay, you're up first." And I'm like, "Huh?" And I stand up and I notice the Kinect, and I'm like, All right.
Literally behind a bookshelf.
Yeah,
I'm sitting down, Jack's standing up in front of this Kinect, which is on a bookshelf.
And a TV, and we're both we have no idea where we're at or what we're doing. And the guy's like, so here's the deal. You're going to be playing.
Was this in an alley behind?
Yeah, dude, literally,
would
dude.
think so.
What is it, Diagon Alley? Isn't that from the movie or something? Yeah.
I stepped into Narnia.
Well played.
I have moments,
Nice.
and that was one of them. But we went back there, and he's like, so there's a couple game modes you can try, and I, like a dumbass, he at one point said, put your hand up, and I didn't. It just triggered a game instead of him explaining it. So I get in, he's like, so, you're Ron Weasley at a Quidditch match, and you're the part of the movie where he's a goalie, and you need to
Called the keeper?
The keeper.
The Quidditch keeper?
Yeah, tell me out with the terms here. I have to stop the bludgers, and avoid the.
You have to.
What are the black ones?
No, the bludgers are the black ones. And
No, what were the ones I had to hit though?
the quaffles?
The quaffles. Thank you. Damn, dude.
Wow.
That's why I surround myself with nerds.
Name
Forgot about the
dropper.
quaffles.
So I'm up there as Mr. Weasley, and I start. And the idea is it's connect. You use your hands, and you move side to side and avoid as they come at you. And I showed them the videos too. I'm moving like a really bad robotic breakdance. And Jason's making fun of me. He's like, Jack, dude, put some gusto into it. And I try to move a little bit different, but I still look like just goofy as hell up there.
You're.
I watched the video. There's no getting around it. I look goofy as hell.
Well, no,
playing
the
this
demo
thing.
that particular.
There's not much you
game
can do to
mode,
look
right.
fancy.
You're basically just. I mean, it's just like the Ricochet app for Kinect, right? It's like you've got these balls coming at you, and you kind of try and move your arms to hit the balls, basically.
And I'm that retarded with my
like
hands.
pulled out her shoulder doing that. She was just like, oh god.
yeah, dude. I'm not trying to beat them at all. I'm just moving my hand in the.
She was
I used my
swinging
body.
as hard as she could.
I used my body for 80% of them. I just stood in front of them. Anyways, so I play this, and we get ready to leave. And I can see Jason being Jason, and for people who know Jason would know this, is trying to exit the building without saying anything, just so he could avoid doing what I'm about to ask him to do. I'm like, he's like, so do you want to try something? And Jason's like getting up to move. I'm like, yes, he would. And I grabbed him, and I just like, all right. So he gets up there, and he's like, well, we're gonna play something different. I grab my camera, and I start recording it. It's
I got to choose actually.
Oh,
He gave me
did
the
you get
whole
some choice? Oh, he said, do you want to do what he just did, or do you want to do something
Yeah, and
different?
I was like, no, let's do a different one because you were recording it. And so you have a menu, and you just like the Xbox, you swipe, you move your hand, and it gives you the ones. And I literally had watched the Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the movie, the night before. No joke.
And this was taken. It's the part where they're finding the Horcrux in the cave, and the sea
creatures
are coming out to get them.
Infernai, I believe, is what they're called.
I can't believe you remember the name of that, dude. And you basically, with one hand, you have a wand. The other hand, when the lights go dim, you throw it up, and it basically throws light into the air so you can see them. And when the light's up in the air, there's a small mini map with red dots that shows you that they're coming up towards you in the center.
And you're surrounded. You're on an island, and surrounded but 360 degrees by water.
Yes, directly from the part of the
That's
movie.
what an island is.
Yes, you're a castaway, and you have a ball. Some might call him Wilson.
Some might call him Spaulding.
So Jason's up there, and he's getting a gist, and you basically with your wand hand you could tilt it left or right to rotate him.
Actually, I think what you did was because you're supposed to put your elbow out and your arm back, and I think where you aimed was with your elbow, and then you'd snap your elbow, and that would cast the spell.
But it was also your rotation, so you were moving in a 360-degree angle.
Yeah, so as you lean to one side, your character would spin around.
Yeah, and they're coming up out of the water, and Jason is casting his magic missile and lightning bolts at them, and I'm laughing because it just looks funny. I mean, he's up here doing this, and the guy would be like, light! Jason would throw his hand.
Aziz, light!
He'd throw his left hand up. Very nice. He'd throw his left hand up and get into it. So as it's coming, the guy says, he's like, these are like waves. More and more are going to come out of here. And Jason hits a point where he's 100% surrounded. And instead of just getting flustered and maybe firing at one or two, Jason gets the smart idea to be like, I'm going to hold the light hand up and then take the wand hand with the elbow pointed just to the right, and swing it as fast as I could. So I'm firing like a machine gun and he goes ape shit on this game. And I'm so fascinated. I couldn't even keep. You'll see the video. I couldn't even keep the camera on you because I was laughing so hard at the screen. His character, basically Harry's moving in a circle as fast as he possibly can, firing magic missiles at these guys, and Jason's waving flailingly like he's having a seizure at there.
Jason was definitely overclocked.
I will just say this: I won.
You killed it.
I was surrounded,
it.
and I was surrounded.
You killed it,
and I did it.
You were so. I brought up these guys. You were so amped when it finished that you were like stoked to play the next one and realize it was done, and you're like, oh. Like, he had his arms posed for them to keep coming.
No, I honestly, it was incredibly fun. Partially because we were completely making fun of each other. You make the little game instructor guy laugh. But no, for any of you who are Harry Potter fans and have always wanted to cast your own spell, it's really fun. Like I said, you kind of aim with your elbow and you snap your wrist and you fire, and it's just
a fun Connect integration.
It's very fun.
Yeah, it's a fun Connect.
Very,
and it was
very
at the
fun.
end of the day, I guarantee that man had not seen that move ever. Ever. Because I was floored by it, and his face was just like, holy shit. But we got to work. We got to work out.
But it was definitely a ton of fun.
I just love how you held the light hand up. You like it was like giving continuous streams of light.
That's awesome.
Okay, so on that note, we've been beating around the bush of the big first-person shooters for the entire evening for nearly 2 hours now.
Cock tease.
And I think it's time that we hit them. So let's first talk about. I wanted to talk about one thing that Jack and I spoke briefly about yesterday, which is I saw there's a new Medal of Honor. So Call of Duty, obviously we've talked about, gigantic franchise, huge for Activision, biggest game franchise in the world right now. And EA wants a piece of that, and so they come out, they reinvent their Medal of Honor franchise, again with a modern kind of warfare kind of a theme to it. They had one last year, they have a new one this year, it's called Medal of Honor Warfighter. So I check it out. I was a huge fan of the old World War II Medal of Honor games. So I check it out, and I think, okay. I actually have a friend who was an art director with that particular studio for a while, so... go to check it out or whatever, and I'm really, really blown away by the graphics. I mean, considering how many examples of first-person shooter, modern kind of warfare games there are right now, I was really blown away. And then I kind of instantly went back and started looking at some Black Ops 2, this is all campaign, by the way, Black Ops 2 footage, and I was really kind of like, Call of Duty, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, they're obviously using that exact same engine, and they're not doing anything to step up their graphics. And this is the first time for me, like I had mentioned yesterday, Jack, where I felt like, honestly, it's starting to feel a little dated. The graphics. Yeah. I mean, it's don't get me wrong, it's still a good-looking game for sure, but it is no longer the best of the best graphics-wise.
I'd agree.
So it was just an interesting observation. That was the first time I'd really kind of noticed that there are better examples of modern warfare graphics than the pinnacle of modern warfare games out there. So I thought that was kind of an interesting. And I know we had an interesting discussion. Why don't you talk a little bit about your kind of thoughts on that, Jack?
No, I mean, I think EA is doing a great job on their look dev on those games. I think between Battlefield 3 and what they've done with Medal of Honor, I think hands down what they do with their lighting and the atmosphere is just sick. I mean, it's insanely sick, but I think the problem and why they don't get the playability and they don't get the same multiplayer experience, and this is something me and Jason had talked about, is back to the dumb. There's a portion of that experience you want for gameplay purposes for multiplayer and what the hardcore guys love. You want that experience to be dumbed down. You want your single player experience, I think, to be, dude, so immersive. Like Doom or something, when you want to be scared, you want to be anxiety, you want that out of your single player. Multiplayer, man, you want efficiency, and you want it to be fast.
You want a 60.
You want no bullshit. You want to get right in there. Yeah, dude.
Second.
You want no bullshit. You want right in there, and you want to have fun and fast, and it go.
Yeah.
And you don't want to sit in lobbies for 20 fucking minutes.
Yeah, no shit. I mean, no shit, you don't. And you want to be able to connect to your friends fast. Battlefield failed on that miserably.
Yeah.
You want those kinds of options, and I think EA struggles there. I think the look though, I admit 100%, dude. I am blown away with the look of those two games right now for that genre.
Yeah, so we had a really good discussion about it yesterday, but I think the recap of that was basically, for me, you're 100% right. What you're saying, multiplayer, and particularly with Activision's Call of Duty, do not mess with not just a good thing, the best thing. Do not mess with that. If clearly that multiplayer is the premium experience that people are after over and over and over again, it's continually number one on XBLA every single week. Clearly, they're doing something right. So I completely understand the logic of don't mess with.
You
the good
jump
thing.
in, you play, you can leave, and there's nothing lost.
And
you can do it fast. And
graphics will always take a second fiddle to performance when it comes to multiplayer. Always, and that's the way it should be.
And
it's
as it
designed
should.
that way. Absolutely,
and honestly, as it should. Until
Absolutely.
it can all catch up, I think it should.
Absolutely,
my
completely
opinion.
agree. So then my thought, and this is, of course, you love to hate on the Call of Duty franchise. Why not? They're the big guys. But my thought then was, what's stopping you from upping the graphics of your single player? There's nothing that says your multiplayer engine has to be the same engine as your single player. If you've already got your multiplayer engine locked down, great, keep it, put it there. You slowly iterate on that, maybe make some loadouts a little bit better for the next game, but that's what it is. You've got that in the tank. But take your campaign, which other people are graphically pushing innovation, and at least compete.
Now they've put out there that they, at least for Black Ops 2, I watched a video the other day that they're now trying to really focus on lighting a lot more than they had in the past, and hopefully by the end we see more of that. But no, I agree. I agree that they aren't pushing it. But I had a conversation with a guy we work with, who we both know somebody at Infinity Ward, two people, and we were talking about their next thing, because we joke about the friends we have. Josh knows this too, and any of you guys who know game dev people, you could have been friends with them for 10 years, and for whatever reason, those guys and their damn NDAs get just dumb about crap. You're like, dude, I'm not going to blog about it. I'm not coming to my show to talk about it tonight. Let's just talk like friends.
Right.
Because I know you're not going to go tell the world. You don't work in media. But our friends at Infinity Ward, for some reason, they're just, dude, they're so anal about that crap, and we were talking about what they're potentially doing, because the life cycle or the cycle of Call of Duties between the two studios is obviously a year, right? So they're always working on the next thing and keeping a team on the current one to keep it updated. But we were discussing the timeline for potentially the Xbox 720. Is the current team on the next Modern Warfare working on next gen to coincide with the release of the console, or do you think they're just going to miss the cusp of a first release for that console, and it'll go to Treyarch as the first Call of Duty for the next console? Because he had heard he had heard a potential rumor that they were working on next gen.
Well, the one thing too I wanted to mention,
Which would be a graphical increase, I'm assuming.
graphically wise too, Xbox does normal DVDs, double layer DVDs. You have to dumb down your models, your everything like that, because of just space. There's so much space that could fit on these discs. So as cool as it wants to be, Battlefield 3, you can download an extra graphical pack.
Sure.
It didn't come on the disc or anything like that. So it's like when you've made this game, it's just, okay, what do we do?
Right.
So, I think that also becomes a big play.
But I think that the interesting thing is you can now compare, because there's so many Modern Warfare type games out there, you can compare apples to apples, and you can literally see, I turn my head to the left, I see Call of Duty. I turn my head to the right, I see Medal of Honor, and I can visually compare. They're the same exact genre, and this one over here looks better. It looks graphically more interesting. So, there's been a lot of industry talk about the fact that why are the Call of Duty developers not updating their engine? And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's because you don't mess up the multiplayer. But then I come to say, fine, great, do that. Go set off your multiplayer. Just take your campaign and start doing something more innovative with that. But
I'm sure we'll see it. I'm sure, obviously, next gen, when I don't think they'll leave it the same on next gen. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but
Be interesting. Now, one thing, to defend Call of Duty a little bit, one thing that I think is incredible that I think started to come out in the last week, 2 weeks or so, that Black Ops 2 is doing is, I've been a giant... one of my big complaints about the franchise has been their storytelling, that their storytelling has been very fractured and hard to follow. And Black Ops 2 is doing something interesting in that they're doing sort of like a Mass Effect, where like split campaign, in that you can have an adventure or a story that's different than mine. So if your choice, what do they call it, choice-driven story. So the choices that you make are going to give you a different story. If the choices I make are different, I will get to play literally different levels in the first-person campaign than you might have played.
Adds playability for the single player.
It's interesting. Exactly. It's very, very interesting. It kind of forces you, I want to go back through and make this choice differently to get to play a different level. Or it's very, very interesting. That's worked really well for the Mass Effect franchise, and I think to see that start to eke its way into first-person shooters, very, very interesting.
Did you finish the third one, Mass Effect?
Not yet. Haven't even bought it yet.
Fair
I'm
enough.
going to buy it in about a week or two.
Nice. Are we talking about that game? Are we on to my love of life?
Mass Effect?
No.
Black Ops?
Sure.
Blops?
Absolutely.
So obviously everybody listening to the show knows I'm a pretty huge Call of Duty addict now. And that's sort of my love of life. So I give a little more passion to that game probably than most people. I was actually not impressed with the idea, and we talked about this in an earlier show, that they were going to a legit modern kind of combat, like future kind of thing, and I've spoken about why that worried me. But then after watching the gameplay video, I found myself sort of sucked back in, because I didn't think there's gimmicks in there. Any of the infrared crap to me gets a little gimmicky, and that's a little too futuristic, and but the weapons look cool. The environments I thought looked really, really good for the game. I thought the story, at least what they showed with the what they were doing on, I think it was a causeway that they were trying to fight their way through, I thought was pretty badass. The tech didn't look so far out there that it was like Star Trek-y or lasers and shit like that. So that didn't turn me off. I like Treyarch in the series a little bit better than Infinity Ward, because of their sort of passion towards the multiplayer community.
Which is funny, because wasn't it the opposite for a while? Wasn't Treyarch kind of the second fiddle to Infinity Ward?
They were a bit, but if you talk to, actually, it's funny now that I'm really into that scene, you talk to people who've been playing it since COD 4 and before that, even all the way back, and those guys will almost always go back to Treyarch. And then as I've played, I found I know why. They're one of the few devs that are consistently listening to the community. Where I think Infinity Ward sort of goes, okay, well, maybe institute that. Modern Warfare 2, they let everybody down. They left shit in there that they never fixed. They never really fixed Josh will test, and Sean too. They never really fixed the noob tube thing. They never really fixed things that people hated in the multiplayer game. Where Treyarch, anytime people would bitch about anything in that game in Black Ops, there was a patch the next week. Like, we fixed that. We did this. We did this. And they're very vocal about that. All the devs on that entire team will tell you, first and foremost, to them, that experience is their bread and butter. Their multiplayer fan base for their games is it. And if they can make them happy, then they're going to be happy. And it's going to be successful and everything else. And I feel like they're going to keep doing that. And they're trying to bring forth... I watched a little one that talked about... making more of the elite experience and making more of your character experience, which could be cool that they're going to do moving forward. So, with anything else, I guess we'll see when it actually comes out and plays. The zombies, the stuff they're talking about doing with the zombie mode in Black Ops sounds insane. Going more open world instead of it being just enclosed maps.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, with more people. You play with more people. Jason, I know this is stuff that's right up your alley,
I was
actually.
going to say, if I didn't know for a fact that you would bail a week into it to go to multiplayer, I would consider picking it up.
You know me. And so everybody listening is well aware of this. Day one, when I unbox this damn thing, I'm going right into multiplayer. Hands down. It's just, it'll be nights of and I promise you this now, we'll play zombies. And I'll give it a go this time. I'll give the couple nights with especially when we get our whole group, if we could even get Sean to buy the game. I'd love to have the whole group of us playing that. I think it'd be great.
See.
And I will record it, and we'll get it up on the page when that time comes.
The Ubatubas?
The Ubatubas. What do you guys take on it? For you haters and not so haters.
I'll play it.
I'm
gonna play it
I love
because
Josh.
I'm gonna play it because
Josh
my
has
friends are
zero
playing it.
passion.
I'm gonna play it because my friends play it, which is the main reason why I play multiplayer games.
That's not true. You're not playing Minecraft right now,
Well,
and you have
Well,
friends.
but
playing that.
no. Friend.
well,
Friend playing that game.
Missing a very important letter in there.
There's an S needs to be dropped.
exactly.
So all I have to do is get one more of you jokers, and then the rest of you are in.
Fuck.
Hey, come on! It didn't take much to get you guys to play that Doritos game.
We gave it a whole hour.
Hey, when?
I was.
How about you, Sean?
I was expectedly underwhelmed by the gameplay footage that they put out, and it's just the same old thing. And there's a couple little new gadgets, but it's the same old thing, and it's the same mechanic, and it's the same graphics, and it's the same look, and it's the same storyline. I'm just underwhelmed. And that's like, if you put that thing right next to Halo 4, and the contrast is so vivid that I don't know. If I had to pick one or the other, and I don't, because, I'm doing all right. If I had to pick one or the other this year, it would be Halo. Last year, it was Call of Duty. This year, it would be Halo.
See, I think you put them side by. One, they're obviously very different games, but I feel as what they're trying to bring to the table, Halo now, is just catching up to what not one studio in particular, but what the Call of Duty franchise has already done.
Yeah, I agree. But
So-
the whole Halo series for a good 2-3 years has been just bad. It's just been bad.
Well, that's what I mean. Halo has sucked
hasn't
about
brought anything.
$120 out of my wallet.
Yeah, but you haven't.
That I've never fucking finished anything.
When you've had about
it.
120 minutes that you've played of it?
Maybe total for friends, 100% for friends, mind you.
Yeah.
And I'm, God, I have such a strange feeling I'm gonna end up having to buy that fucking game.
Do you?
I don't-
but,
and I don't want to.
You
Is
look
this
at it, and the thing that's interesting is the Call of Duty franchise is doing things the exact same way. You get your Spec Ops, and those are over here, and you get your multiplayer, and that's over here, and you get your single player, and it's out here, and everything is separate. The thing that's making me excited about Halo 4 is they are trying to sort of interweave that a little bit more and make you not have to sort of reach as far to go through that experience as you do in Modern Warfare now and in the Call of Duty games. And I don't know. It's this same old shit. It's like it feels like a broken record right now with Call of Duty.
It feels like the 10th season of Happy Days.
And I'm excited about Halo because it looks a little new. It looks
Let's
newer.
talk about Halo now.
No, it's great.
Finally, I can stop talking.
You,
Piece of shit game.
Yeah, I think like you said, Sean, one of the most enticing things is, as we've talked about many, many times on this show, we have a big variety between us of liking competitive play, liking leave me alone, I want to do this myself, story-driven play, and then something in between, which is social, cooperative play. Mm-hmm. And I think, Jack, you point out, Activision has done a great job, both the two developers, of recognizing those three distinct portions of interests for people. And I think what you're seeing with 343 Industries and Microsoft is pushing that and interweaving them in a way that's never been done before.
I'll give you this. The best move they made is what I think Activision already did by and we brought up earlier, the two studios. They did for the Halo series by it going to a whole new studio. Best move. I'll give them that hands down. And I think that's a good business model to do because a new studio wants that business so bad that they're willing to think outside the box. They're willing to look at things that work and aren't so hell-bent on, we're fucking Halo. We're gonna sell no matter what we do.
One thing too that Halo had Waypoint before.
Waypoint. Waypoint.
Waypoint, thank you. Before Black Ops had Elite. So
true.
So Waypoint was the whole thing, like what Elite is.
Yeah, actually, it is. I mean, it's interesting, right? Everybody
There's-
sees everything and grabs from
there's
everyone. but yeah.
leapfrogging going on, but I feel like where Halo was in the dip, Black Ops and Modern Warfare were in their peak, and now it's swapping a bit.
We'll see.
So, Josh, why don't you talk a little bit? And Josh and I are gigantic fanboys of the lore and the whole canon of the Halo universe, so much so that we are kind of simultaneously doing the reading through some of the Halo novels on audiobook. And why don't you talk a little bit briefly about that experience? Not a lot of spoilers, but what obviously we're seeing with some of the Halo 4 gameplay footage from E3.
So with the Halo gameplay footage that they showed, and tying in with the books that we have gone through as well, and this isn't anything really spoiler because they've talked about this through the Halo Legends DVD that they had. So all this is kind of like old story news and stuff, but if you don't know it, then now you will know it.
If you don't know, now you know.
Basically, I mean, the Halo universe was built around kind of this one race called the Forerunners, which is this intelligent race that has been around for...
Damn fine truck.
Yeah.
Damn fine truck.
Hyper intelligent.
P.S. You're going to get a lot of this peanut gallery through this talking out stuff.
So these Forerunners, they're the ones, they encountered the organism, the Flood, which was in the first and second and third Halo games.
Is that the noises they make?
So with the Forerunners, what they did is they're the ones who constructed the Halos. They are the intelligent life forms that have did that to basically destroy all of organic life, would you say, in the world. So that was kind of all we knew. It was just they were here a long time ago and now they're gone.
Yeah, long extinct race.
Long extinct. And during this
They said stink.
during the trailer, I think it was Cortana goes like, "Oh, that's Forerunner technology." When she says it in the little preview thing, and you're like, "Oh!" And then the Forerunners too, in some of the books that we have read, are very big into AI, but what's the word I'm thinking of? It's the same thing with Matrix.
Artificial intelligence?
No. They don't call them robots. They don't call them
cyborgs.
They call them
Sentinels.
Sentinels. Thank you, Sentinel beings. So they are fighting Sentinel beings, which is honestly a giant breath of fresh air. That you are now facing these things that have never been seen in the Halo universe, as opposed to fighting the Covenant over and over and over.
Okay, that did look cool.
Looks cool.
I'll be the first to admit that character looked fucking badass.
Yeah,
I give
so
you that.
So what you're definitely mentioning, Josh, the Forerunners are an ancient race that have long been extinct, and they left behind technology that's still operating. Basically, cybernetic kind of organisms. They're not really organisms; they're machines, but they're built to look organic, sort of in nature. And but they are machines. They're AIs. They're Sentinels, little ships that. And in the first Halo, it was a basically kind of a sphere cubey thing that followed you around and called you the Reclaimer. And you don't really know too much about it or learn too much about it. Just know that he's in charge of managing. Yeah, 343 Guilty Spark was his name, hence the studio. And he is in charge of managing basically the Halo installation, which is a long abandoned Forerunner thing. And you kind of find out more through the series, but basically what you kind of piece together through books, through the games, is that the Forerunners have left pieces of their civilization behind all over the universe. And what we're finding out in Halo 4 is that it's not just buildings and locations and giant ring worlds and little floating cube guys. It's actually full-on armies of new crazy AIs and giant machines that apparently you're going to have to fight. So definitely looks
Cats
very,
and dogs living together. Mass hysteria.
very, very intriguing.
I got a little semi for it. Got the bone ski.
You don't read Sean, you don't read the books like these two.
No, I haven't.
Highly recommend them. So
He
much
tried to
fun.
get his wife to read the book.
Just
Yeah,
the first
Which I
one.
found fascinating.
I'd read it. I love sci-fi books.
I will. We will get you an evaluation copy of the audiobooks.
Ender's Game is like one of my favorite books. If you have not read Ender's Game and you're listening to this podcast, I suggest you read Ender's Game.
That's
a
a challenge from Sean.
Ender's Game is that the one that like they kind of say that the Hunger Games copied?
Perhaps. I mean, there are some comparable things. Their children
Yeah,
and so forth. But Ender's Game takes it to a different level, I think.
that's like by the Japanese artist or like Chinese or something like that.
Wow, Josh.
No.
Wow. So,
It's getting late.
Orson-
We're reaching.
ladies and gentlemen,
Written by Orson Scott Card.
ladies and
I'll
gentlemen,
give
we're gonna start to wrap up here.
Okay, to chime in and not be a dick about the game, like some of my friends are about my passion.
We've all tried your game.
Yeah, well,
Many times.
Yeah, well, I have bought and tried your games as well, many of times. Josh can laugh about all those times because he was there 99% of them. He's laughing now. The video we watched did look kind of cool. I thought that new character, his design and what they were doing, I thought was cool. I'm with you. I thought the animation was slightly better than it had been in the past, which is
Slightly.
it was a lot actually.
Yeah, I'm with
it
you
was a
there.
nice breath of air. Is it going to be enough to pull the trigger?
No, but what will
I
be
don't
is
know.
that
It's
all of
all
your
of
friends will be playing it.
Not all of them, but most of them probably.
So this has been the Nerdtastic in 3D E3 recap episode.
Mega episode.
Challenge.
We're not gonna wrap it up just yet. Two things to finish before we go. Number one, actually three things. Number one, on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, which was the 6th, June 6th, 2012, Ray Bradbury passed away. And special shout-out needs to go to him for influencing the science fiction community. And we are definitely nerds, and he is someone that I know that each one of us have read, or at least read something that's been influenced by his work. So, Ray, you will be missed.
Tipping my 40 to your memory right now.
Jack?
40.
I want to give a very, very special shout out to Golden Road Brewery and Meg and John over there, who took the time last episode to sit with us, talk about their process, and be a really big supporter of the show.
Absolutely.
Meg in particular, I was over there the next day for lunch with a big group of DreamWorks and walked up at, I said hi and walked up to me afterwards, handed me 2 6-pack and like, you need to like IPA beer, and walked away. I was like, okay, Meg.
It was amazing. We were there last Friday, and literally 3/4 of the place was DreamWorks.
That's awesome.
And the people from Disney.
And
I
people
think
were
the
Disney
studios
were
in
there.
general were
Yeah.
just bum. Your whole layout department, but like you was there.
Oh, that's right. I was wine tasting.
Yeah. Oh yes, you were wine tasting.
I was
you
hammered.
son of a bitch. But
Splitter.
they're officially, unofficially one of our very first sponsors to the show. So
They're family members.
they are family members, and I could not recommend them highly enough to people listening.
Can you recommend their spicy wasabi mustard?
Holy shit. For anybody,
Awesome.
if you go to the pub
Awesome.
section of their brewery, one of the things I love in being a huge Oktoberfest fan is they have giant pretzels. And with the giant pretzels comes 2 options. A very interesting cheese option that is more like a dressing kind of side, and then in air quotes, a spicy mustard.
It's spicy mustard. It's your standard super spicy mustard. And it's awesome.
There's nothing standard about that damn shit.
Nose running
I
spicy.
had forgot that.
Have you ever been to a Chinese restaurant? You've
No.
had spicy mustard.
Well, I dipped a big portion of the pretzel in it, excited that it was more Americanized, or more of like more of a, what do we call it? A Dijon?
You thought it was. Don't lie.
Honey
You have any
mustard.
No,
great
I
coupon.
thought it was like I thought it was like
No,
Dijon.
you thought it was
mustard.
French is yellow. Don't even
No,
deny it.
it's obvious it's not that yellow, but I thought it was a Dijon, and I dipped this thing and I put it in my mouth, and it so I put it in, and it hit me instantly. So I grabbed my fucking beer, which wasn't the smartest thing to do, threw that in my mouth, which then forced whatever
Force
chemical
the fumes into your
chemical
navel cavity.
fumes that shot out of my nose like a damn dragon and singed. I'm pretty sure it did. Singed nose hairs, and I was instantly crying at the table. I mean, hands down, eyes both started watering uncontrollably.
Yeah, he pussed out.
and
big time.
then sat there crying to myself for a bit that I had done what I did to myself.
And it sounded like this.
I couldn't breathe. I could. Sean was next to me. I couldn't breathe. Right. This was a testament of what they do at their pub, and I give it to them. Go check it out, though.
Good stuff.
Josh, you want to talk about some of their beers, the Hef, the IPA that they offer?
They're all great. I mean, they only have. I like them all, to be honest with
They
you.
have a lot of guest beers too from microbreweries.
If you actually
around.
go to
They
the
have
pub
guest beers,
themselves.
some casks that they have there. There, I mean,
If you find yourself in Glendale,
Hit up
Golden Road Brewery.
San
Super
Fernando.
nice, super nice people. Everyone that works there is just nice and cool and
No beer geeks. Maybe a couple
Yes.
beer nerds. No beer geeks.
No beer geeks.
So as we do with every episode, we like to wrap up by recapping last week's weekly challenge and giving you and us a new one. So let's recap where the standings are. Did everybody see this?
I
know.
I did. You sent it. You
I
nixed
did-
us.
I did not just us.
I don't think
On
you
back
guys-
to that. You nixed us.
I don't think you guys needed to.
Okay,
No,
fair enough.
I feel
Like
like
I
you're
said, I'd be
completely
happy not
challenged.
nixing us.
I got excited to purchase my Lego set, damn it, and build that at the table.
Good. All right, fair enough. I'm adjusting that.
I'm
So
with Sean. It wasn't as impressive, dude. I give you hands down. That yours was probably the
Yes.
most impressive.
Definitely.
Josh, you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything.
so currently on the
I was
list,
so drunk
last
all week.
let's see.
That
You
was
should have
awesome,
been making
though.
amazing shit that no
All
one could
week was
possibly
just
fathom.
Nothing but just beers.
If
and
you had
booze
designed the
every
pyramid
day.
tower, would
Sorry,
that be
Jason.
considered?
So 2 weeks ago, it was to build something with your hands. Sean gave that challenge, and I guess it was worth 20 points. So Sean, Jack, and myself all received 20 points for that. Josh very, very boldly claimed he didn't do squat for it.
I award you no points. I got him
So that means-
In
You
fact,
get
you
a
have
nod?
negative points now.
That means currently in the standings, Jack, Sean, and I are competing for number one spot. Jack, last week, tying in very nicely with our themed episode over at Golden Road, you gave a challenge, which was?
Try a new beer, which I got hit up playing Xbox with a bunch of the people that we do. Our own good friend D Magnus, who we're going to have on the show here eventually, buddy, if you're listening. You said you had submitted a picture. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to take it that you drank something new. Some kind of swill went down your throat, and so you will be seeing that, and you'll be receiving some kind of points and a high five,
Absolutely.
an E5. You'll get an E5 for one of us.
Absolutely. By the way, yes, to that end, we are keeping track of our score. We would also like to keep track of your score. We want you to email in pictures of yourself. Email, Facebook, Jack,
Yeah.
preference?
We had sort of discussed this. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback, but what I'd really like to do, and outside of Sean, who's not on there,
Yeah.
and me trying to support the stock. Not that I own any, but I honestly feel like right now, socially, culturally, Facebook seems to be a decent gathering group for communities of some sort. And until we build up the website to where we want it and whatnot, I feel like maybe right now, Facebook would be a good outlet for us to. I'll post the weekly challenge the next day, and if you comment in the thread with whatever the challenge is this week was a beer, you comment in the thread with the beer that you drank, or want to, feel free on Facebook there to submit a picture or email us at Nerdtastic3D. You can, but commenting on the thread, giving the thread a like is a way of letting us know, and I can track, hey, that person did this, and we can add you to our mega list,
Our spreadsheet.
our spreadsheet of
Now-
people and your points.
Now, to be fair, we have said that this is the honor system and you all are in charge of keeping track of your own score. That's fine, but we're happy to keep track of it for you as well. So
Absolutely.
if you have been tagging along with us since the very beginning, which was, I believe, 3 weeks ago of this now, since we kept track, feel free to email in your current total, and from here on out, we will only be accepting pictures. So starting from this evening's challenge, not the one from last week, but this one, we will only...
Pictures or convincing comments on the thread.
Or a good
video
story.
or video if
Video.
it's really funny.
Maybe
Yeah.
a good story. But we will actually keep track of you on our list, and all you have to do to participate is weekly hit up this Facebook thread.
Yeah, and if you don't, like I said, if you don't have a Facebook page like Mr. Fennel over here, feel free to nerdtastic3D at Gmail. But I'm assuming most of the people listening on to the show have one. So head on over to our Facebook fan page. You'll see the thread there. It'll be after the show somewhere. I'm going to say weekly challenge number whatever. And comment away, man. Let's see what craziness. So back to the challenge.
You want to start? Me? You?
I feel like at least some of us here hit the challenge on the night of.
Yeah, I believe so. And I was wondering if that counted or not.
I think it does because that was the craziest beer I've ever drank.
Oh,
That
super
cask?
good.
No, not the cat. Well, the cast I had
The
was
summer-
different
the
for me.
summer
Oh,
German
So I
yes,
did
yes,
two.
yes, yes,
we did.
yes,
I did
yes.
two that night. That was the first ones I ever had. One was the most tangiest, sweet, tarty, not sweet beer I had ever
sour
had.
beer?
The sour beer, and the second was Josh was a
Cask.
casked beer I had never had. So I was 2 for 2 that
Booyah!
night. I feel bad for Jason because it's not really fair.
Have any nice
So you guys,
Barilla?
But we
So
did give you an exception. We did do an exception for you.
So I forget exactly the point total that we agreed to go with this. Does anyone else remember?
No.
10 points?
We'll go 10.
I
We'll
thought
go
it was-
10.
I believe it was 10. I think that sounds familiar. So all three of you got 10 points on
So,
that evening?
so Sean, you'd say that evening too. I mean, have you tried
Yeah,
anything
absolutely.
since then?
Yeah, that sour beer,
And
which
it's-
I was a fan of. I liked it a lot.
And honestly, it's probably not even fair in general because me and Sean instituted at the beginning of our show, the movie that we work on for our team, that on Fridays we usually have a gathering of our team to talk about the week, what we did. We took it up a notch and said, hey, every week we're going to rotate somebody buy beer.
a different beer.
A different beer. Yeah. And I got to be honest, I've tried... Outside of the weeks that I show up with my Guinness, I've had
good 15
more
different types of
beers.
beers.
Yeah, and it's been pretty consistent. So even this week, I think I had something. Well, I had the Golden Road Hef, so that was new.
Golden Road
The
Hef.
IPA.
Yeah, and the IPA tasted that too. So,
So
Josh,
you get 10 points. Sean, you get 10 points. Josh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Josh.
that's not even a question, Josh. I'm sure you tried something different at some point.
So this is going to surprise you.
You did.
Yay,
you did.
Jason! One of us. One of us.
Oosa.
I believe I have maybe a slight alcohol allergy. Alcohol scratches my throat. It really hurts my
I actually
throat.
have the same thing.
And so it's very hard for me to get past that and like alcohol. That being said, in honor of you guys, though I don't prefer to drink, and even though you did give me the out, found out that there is actually a microbrewery 5 minutes from my house. And we had some friends over last Sunday, and he brews from his garage, huge into the craft brewing scene. I actually told him about the show. He was very excited about it, and he said, let's hit this up for lunch. So we went, and he got a sampler, and he's like, here you go.
Oh, so you got a little flight.
And I was like, okay.
Oh, look at you.
So I took a small taste. I didn't like it, just like I knew I wouldn't. It hurt, but it was new. So I give myself 10
Yay!
points.
Good for you, Jason.
Now,
For people who don't know him, that is a big deal.
Now we will try our hardest to make sure that this is an event that everyone can participate in. But in the event that you can't for some reason or you choose not to, don't worry, we're not going to penalize you. You can
Post on the thread.
Yeah.
This is back. Post on it. Say, hey, tell us your lame reason why you can't do our
here's,
challenges.
Here's why I couldn't do your challenge, but I did this instead.
Yeah, and that you know what? Obviously, if it's worthy, we'll give you the points.
Absolutely. So let's see. So Sean's had one recently. I've had one. Jack's had one. I guess that leaves us up to this gentleman over here. How do you not know? How do you not know by
you
now?
almost had one last week, and you let it.
And you
let it
still
go.
have-
No, he was pissed. He's like, God damn it,
Damn it!
Jack, that was a
so
good
easy.
one.
Right in front of your face.
Okay. All right, Josh, you think of one real quick. I'll one final thought
All right,
to
yeah,
Halo
go ahead.
4 while you're thinking, which
Go ahead
is
and do that.
as the child in me. Like I said, I really enjoy getting wrapped up in the hype of E3. I'm a gigantic Halo fan, as I've said on the show. For me to see Master Chief in his armor and
He was there.
and to hear that so not that and to hear that voice once again, seeing gameplay footage and seeing some cinematic footage, I literally smiled. I was sitting in my office watching it Monday morning, and just this big smile crept up on my face, and I was like, yeah, so excited. Like the first time you saw Phantom Menace.
Well, I'll tell you, you know what though, but it isn't a burn because I'm sure all of us in this room, if you're a fan of Star Wars, the very beginning of the film,
Sure.
when they showed things that you had never seen Jedi do. I'm not going to bullshit. I'm getting goosebumps again thinking about the scene. When he sticks the damn lightsaber in the door, dude, I about melted in my chair like a little schoolboy going, yeah, Christmas morning! Yeah. It was fucking unreal. And every fanboy in the theater went ape shit when he did that because you're like, this is what we wanted to see.
Absolutely.
You know what was
And
even,
then it tanked miserably. But
You know what was even better though is when they finally re-released all three movies, the originals. The special editions in the theater, seeing Yoda come on screen again for the first time on a big screen was just the most fucking, it was the coolest thing ever.
Josh,
Yeah?
What do
are
got,
you
bud?
good?
Okay.
What do you got?
It's going to be so fucking lame.
Well, then, can you think of a better one?
Maybe you should give you another minute.
I can throw out a challenge if you can. I'll throw another one out if you're not confident.
No. We like to mix
God
this up.
damn
and
it,
give
but I got
everybody-
a good one if you can't think of one.
Keep it for yourself.
I got one too. You want it?
No,
No, make it.
Josh.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm with Jason. Josh.
Go on now.
I don't care how lame it is. Just go.
I did. cereal, didn't I? Wasn't that one of mine?
Well,
That one got
okay.
the most responses.
That was pretty simple.
Well, mine is just because I was at E3 and I saw a lot of fatties.
Okay.
And this thing
I'm with
is
you. We're following.
your challenge this week is for one day in succession to do 15 push-ups.
Sweet.
Awesome.
I'll do it right
I like
now.
Fuck. All right.
That's good.
You have to do 50. You can't like go 5 and then rest and then do 5 more.
So you have to do 15.
15.
Now I want to point out something with 15. 15 is more than they even require you in basic to go to the next level. Of meaning, when you leave, when you start there, they won't even let you into basic unless you can do 10.
I'll do 15 right now.
Well,
Earn my challenge.
okay.
Done.
Well, when we're done, we'll make sure to video that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 29 of Nerdtastic in 3D. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Jason Carter.
My name's Jack Eckler, and really, just to keep it going, just one more second. I'm going to post the last challenge up there for you beer drinkers, and if you can post in the thread what beer you drank, I'd love to hear. I'm sure the group of us would in case we want to try it, including Jason Carter. So I'm Jack Eckler. With that, I'm out.
I'm Sean Fennell. Good night.
And I'm Josh Brett. And I'm sleepy.
Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye. Mega episode.
Nerdtastic. 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 It is